Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back. This will be a short shift, and that's on me. Seems both days this weekend are cursed to be short shifts. That's frustrating, but whatever. It's okay, because my channel's going downhill. So, I wanted to share a small snippet. You're probably wondering why I'm late. Well, it's actually really simple. So I went, got my errands done. Took a little longer than anticipated because of, well, traffic, put simply. Finally get back. I'm like, okay, I'm ready to go. Wave of fatigue smashes me in the face. And I'm like, you know what? This is Dragon Age Origins. I don't want to be barely awake while I'm doing this one, you know? So let's not do that. So I decided to go, lay down, close my eyes for a bit. That was a bit ago. Little over an hour ago. About, I don't know, 5-10 minutes ago, I'm like, I'm starting to stir a bit. And I'm like, oh, I should probably go ahead and get up. You know, I feel better. And the carbon monoxide alarm is going off and everybody's evacuating the house. So, that was an interesting way to wake up. It's okay, it was a false alarm. The kid was, the child was playing with the button, the panel. And that's all that was. But, you know.
Make her watch over you, my lady.
Okay, so we're finally at Ostagar. We only have a short shift. Let's see if we can push through this. Let's get this out of the way really quick. Probably one of the more visually impressive spots in the whole game. We've got the watchtower there, which will be the dungeon we'll be doing in a minute. We've got one side of the fort, the other side of the fort, and the canyon, which the fortress itself controls the passage thereof. Ignore the terrain you could see down there bugging out. Decent amount of forestry in the background, getting across just how dense and wild this area is, which actually helps to emphasize the Ferelden in general is not a particularly urbanized nation. It's something that's actually mentioned by other nations several times, and I've already brought this up too. Ferelden is kind of the backwater, but not in a bad way. It's also a very, very fertile land, and there's a reason why huge swaths of it are just farmland. Unfortunately, I don't think I can look at the world map yet. No, not yet. But you can get the idea here. So, okay, controlling the pass, big fortress, nice, stylized, cool. Decent visuals, not the shabbiest. Plus to brickwork for Ostagar. Yay! Take it where you can get it, you know? Yeah, exactly. It's why Orlais wanted this place. This is a breadbasket nation. This is the Westfall.
You must be the Grey Warden recruit that Duncan brought.
Howdy.
This place hasn't seen such bustle in centuries, I'll wager. Need a hand getting anywhere?
So they give us an NPC who gives us directions to where to go, which is nice. But tell me about the place.
Used to be a fortress long time ago, so I understand. Back in the days when the Wilders used to invade the lowlands. You were just on the eastern side of the ruin. The Tower of Visceral is there, but Tairn Loghain's closed it off until the battle. This side is the King's camp. We've got the Grey Wardens here, the Circle of Magi, the Chantry. You can't swing a dead cat without hitting somebody important.
Cool. And he'll give you all kinds of stuff to interact with here. If I'm not mistaken, yes, JC Ward, although don't quote me on that. I didn't do a lot of background research for this one because this isn't a lore run, but I'm pretty sure you are correct on that. Hang on, there's a specific song that would be perfect for this area. See if I can find it. Oh, that's not it. Oh, where is it? I don't know what it's called. I just know what the song sounds like. No, that's not it. Oh, whatever.
Go on then. Good luck to you then.
So, there's so much here. We're going to try and rapid fire this a little bit.
Greetings. King Kalen is not in his tent right now?
Tell me about the king. You must see him a lot.
I suppose I do. Though he's spending most of his time with the Grey Wardens. He rides with them wherever they go, in fact. Taint Loghain sees the king whenever he can and argues with him over coming battles, but the king just waves him off. The king wants to end the Blight with a single huge battle the bards will sing of for centuries. Do you think that's possible?
No.
That's how the Taint feels. He'll do what the king wants in the end, though. The king thought it was funny the Taint called him reckless, and they fought about the queen.
The queen?
She's the Taint's daughter. He wasn't happy about something she did or the king did, I'm not sure. I probably shouldn't discuss it.
Ah, fair.
As you wish.
I should go.
Look carefully, man. This wretched thing is a Darkspawn. They're strong and cunning and smart, but don't listen to those old wives' tales. They can be killed. Stick them with your sword enough, and they go down. Their blood is black as sin and poisonous. Don't even touch it. You get tainted with that blood, and you may as well slit your throat. We've lost many dogs already. Had to muzzle them to keep them from biting. It's a long and painful way to die.
Cute. But also necessary exposition. You'll notice that this whole area is the actual intro to the game, right? Well, wrong. The intro to this game is enormous, because there's actually 3 completely separate intros, and all of them have the same structure and approach of an intro. We are now in the city whose name I suddenly can't think of the name of, from KOTOR 1. Oh, god damn it. That's going to... Terrace. We're now in Terrace, equivalently. We did the Origin, which is the tutorial and the no really, the prequel, the prelude, not the prequel, the prelude, the thing that leads up to everything. And now we're in the first town. And I know that sounds strange, but structurally that is what this is. We've got NPCs, we've got vendors, we've got quests, and a bit of a status quo, even though the story structure is all about building up to the battle that's about to happen.
It's supposed to be the battle that sends these Darkspawn back underground. You believe that?
I don't know what to believe. We've won every battle, but there's more of them each time.
Makes you wonder if them Grey Wardens are right.
I don't want to think about that.
Sounds like the perfect time to get drunk, if you ask me.
Cannot disagree. Alright, y'all.
Scouting party made it back last night. Barely.
Really, really minor touch. I know I pointed this out before. It's such a minor thing. It's so minor. He won't attack while we're in his way. I love pointing out this little detail every time I see it. We scooch. Now it might not be. There he goes. He'll go back to shooting.
There are lots of Darkspawn, different kinds. We're getting reports of things we've never even heard of. Our short friend here, for instance, is something called a genlog. They're pretty common in the Horde, but we've seen others much larger. We don't know where these new Darkspawn are coming from, or what they can do. All I can say is to use caution. There aren't any we've seen that won't die once they bleed enough.
Oh yeah, this is also a good time to mention that, similar to most of BioWare's other first entries, the biggest threat, relatively speaking, is approached in the first game. Mass Effect 1, we're saving the galaxy from Sovereign. In KOTOR 1, we're saving the galaxy from Malak and the Sith. And in Dragon Age Origins, we're saving the planet from a Blight. Don't mistake me, the Blight would have been stopped if it broke out of Ferelden, and we all know that. But we broke the back of a Blight before it actually left its initial country, which is bonkers. And we do save an entire country, definitively, regardless of the fact that we also helped save a planet. As we've heard about in Tales, and of course in the books and other ancillary works, like the Codex, for example, yes, spoilers, we win the game. We know that the Blights cause a lot of damage, historically speaking. It is, once again, one of the reasons why everyone's so, like, blonkered that, oh yeah, sure, you totally beat a Blight. Uh-huh.
We stand here in this hour, good folk of Ferelden.
You approach the tent of Taint Loghain. State your business.
Yeah, we stopped a boulder that could have caused a lot of wreckage.
How can you not know of Loghain? He helped free Ferelden. He was the brains behind King Maric's armies and drove out those damned Orlesians. King Maric rewarded him by making him a Taint. Can you imagine? A commoner became a high nobleman just like that.
Without Logain, you can bet the king wouldn't be winning against these Darkspawn.
Now, that's a minor thing, but it emphasizes that Loghain still has a lot of loyalists, something we'll be seeing throughout the course of the game. It also shows a little bit of how, while Ferelden has traditions, they're probably one of the most willing to bend their own traditions. This kind of goes back to the fact that Ferelden, that is to say current Ferelden, the Ferelden in the state it is right now, is a new country, and thus doesn't have the deep roots and the deep grooves in the, in the metaphorical stone, like so many of the other nations and cultures do. They're a little bit more willing to bend, and frankly, I think that's one of the reasons Ferelden does as well as it does.
Very well.
Not the only reason, of course, but one of the reasons.
For the Maker in the land beyond the Fade, he shall not find you wanting. Go not into death gladly, but with the knowledge that evil has been held at bay by your spilled blood. And if you go to stand beside the Maker, go with our blessing, for you shall not be forgotten. My friends, let us bow our heads and remember those who have fallen and those who have yet to fall.
Hi, Imperial Star Destroyer. And yeah, that's what I'm referring to. Like, obviously, there was an infrastructure and PowerPoint, or I can't talk. There was stuff that would make up a country before it was freed about a generation ago. But the current country, the state of Ferelden as it is now, is a very new entity. And, again, it shows. It's one of the things I like about this. You cannot tell me that Orlais or, Tevinter or even Antiva would have been as willing to bend when it comes to, tradition and rules as much as Ferelden has. I should look up exactly how long ago it was, because I keep saying it's a generation, because, the guy who led the armies to do it is right over there. But give me a second. Because I hate the way they keep track of the timestamps. We're just going to do this down to here. Okay, here we go. It is apparently 30 years to the dot. What do you know? Although this is interesting. I didn't realize that Liliana's song was a full 2 years before these events. I thought it was a lot more recent than that. Well, go figure. Boop.
You there, elf. What's your name?
It's Pick, sir.
Go tell Tern Logain that the war party's ready to begin scouting. We'll send word if we find anything amiss.
Yes, sir. Right away, sir.
What do you need? You haven't brought more instructions from the Tern, I hope.
No.
If you're not from the Tern, what do you want? We're busy.
And did I say hi, ISD? Hi, Imperial Star Destroyer. I'm sorry if I didn't say hi. I'm still kind of woogie. You don't look like soldiers.
We aren't. We're Ash Warriors.
What's an Ash Warrior?
Our training has been passed down since Lathias the Dwarf Son first harnessed the battle rage of the dwarves. It is an old tale.
So, can I hear it?
I am no bard, but I will do my best. Lathias was a claimed tribesman. Some said he was too short to be a warrior, but he was strong and fierce. His chieftain sent him to the dwarves of Orzammar to negotiate an alliance, where he fell in love with the king's daughter, Skya, and brought her back to his tribe. She taught Lathias to use the dwarven battle wrath to summon his strength and ignore all pain. Lathias then taught this to the Clain, who made him their chieftain.
What happened to him?
Lathias' prowess earned him the love of Morrigan, a beautiful chieftain of another tribe. When Skya learned of his seduction, she returned to her people. Lathias was grieved. He sent Morrigan away, but this only vexed her, and began a long war between their tribes. In the end, Lathias slew Morrigan in single combat. However, his wounds were great, and he perished when the rage ended. The dwarves came from Orzammar that day, and gave Lathias an honored burial in the mountains. And we live by his teachings even today.
Interesting. What happened to Skya?
It is said that before the final battle, she returned to Lathias and gave him a shirt of dwarven chain, along with a final night of passion. Then she was gone forever. If she lived on in Orzammar, only the dwarven folk could say for certain.
Interesting. Thank you for telling me.
It was an honor. My thanks. There is hunting to be done, and I'll not be kept from it.
Interesting. Good afternoon, Vancini. I'm sorry.
This isn't good. I'd hate to waste such a promising member of the breed. Are you the new Warden? I could use some help.
And I'm sorry you're dealing with that Command & Conquer too. I hope you get it fixed in time. What's the issue?
This is a Mabari. Smart breed and strong. His owner died in the last battle, and the poor hound swallowed Darkspawn blood. I have medicine that might help, but I need him muzzled first.
Well, we'll see, won't we, Imperial Star Destroyer? I haven't reviewed it under the current system, after all. I think the real question, and a lot of people have been sharing it, is will this game beat Baldur's Gate 3 in overall score? So, how smart is this dog?
Centuries ago, a mage bred them to be smart and understand what they're told. They can remember and carry out complex orders. Most valuable dogs in the world. Trouble is, they generally imprint to one master. Re-imprinting them is very difficult. But without the medicine, re-imprinting won't be an issue. Will you help?
Of course.
Go in the pen and let him smell you. We'll know right away if he'll respond. Let's hope this works. I'd really hate to have to put him down.
Oh, he's very ill. Muzzle.
Well done. Now I can treat the dog properly, poor fella. Come to think of it, are you heading into the wilds anytime soon?
I might, yeah, why?
There's a particular herb I could use to improve the dog's chances. It's a flower that grows in the swamps here, if I remember. If you happen across it, I could use it. It's very distinctive, all white, with a blood-red center.
All white, blood red center. You got it.
Good. In the meantime, I'll begin treating our poor friend.
Yeah, I'm not a big dog person. Not that dogs are bad, it's just, I hate barking. Yeah, you see the problem I'm in. I think, I don't know. I don't know if this game is going to beat Baldur's Gate 3. We'll see. We'll see. I do think it's going to be closer than, you'd think. I think that's its direct competition. Because Baldur's Gate 3, let's be clear, was absolutely carried by certain aspects of its story. And this game doesn't piss me off constantly to play it, so that's nice.
What do we have here? I heard the new Grey Warden recruit was from the Circle. I don't believe we've met, but I've certainly heard a lot about your talent.
Nice belt.
My name is Wynne, and I congratulate you on your harrowing, marvelous work. The Fade is a dangerous place.
I found it terrifying, to be honest. Oh, right, I forgot to do that.
I thought the same. It's good you can admit that. So, a Grey Warden, fighting alongside the King. Not too shabby for someone just out of apprenticeship.
Well, I will say this, Colgrim. One way or another, this game has a substantially better outro than Baldur's Gate 3. So, I hope I don't disappoint anybody.
Child, you have been taught well. Use what you know, and have faith in yourself. Mages have always been pivotal in the fight against the Darkspawn. Perhaps you'll be the one to turn the tide this time.
Do you know much about Darkspawn?
Some. Do you? Do you know about the connection between them and the Fade, for example?
Honestly, no.
Anytime your spirit leaves your earthly body, whether it's to dream or to die, it passes into the realm we call the Fade. It's home to many spirits, some benevolent, others far less so. At the heart of the Fade lies the Black City.
It's a Black City.
Some say the Black City was once the seat of the Maker. But when the mages from the Tevinter Imperium found a way into the city, it was tainted with their sin. That taint transformed those men, turning them into twisted reflections of their own hearts. And the Maker cast them back to the Earth, where they became the first Darkspawn. At least that's what the Chant of Light says.
I should probably mention I am speaking on both the gameplay and the story axis, Colgrim, because Huthor says an interesting thing. This is the game that put outros on the map for you. What was the first one for you? And anybody in chat who feels like answering. What's the first game that really made you feel like an outro could be an awesome part of a game? Because as we've discussed, good outros are actually the outlier. Most games don't have a good outro, percentage-wise. If you look at all games, it's like this percent over here. That's the good outros. And it tends to be the really, really good game. Not always, but, you know. I know what it is for me, too, and I'll even tell you why. It was Mega Man 2. And the specific reason why is because... yeah, I know, it was a while ago. I'm old, what do you want from me? But the thing that really nailed it about Mega Man 2, Mega Man 3 reinforces, but Mega Man 2 started it, was the Wily stages were like the dessert when I played Mega Man 2, when I replayed Mega Man 2. It was the thing that made going through the other stages worthwhile, right? That was the attitude. That was the mentality, is like, I have earned getting to the final stages, because they were awesome. I like them, as I showed during the review of the Mega Man a couple years ago. And so, that attitude was kind of there in my brain already. But I would be remiss if I did not mention the significance that Final Fantasy IV had, to my opinion on the matter. Because when we go to the place that is the final dungeon in Final Fantasy IV, and that song starts up, that's a moment. I look forward to re-reviewing all three FF4s and see how much that moment hits in all three of them, because I remember how that hit the first time. So the Chantry is full of crap.
It may be allegory, meant to teach us that our own evil causes human suffering. Or it may be true. It is as good an explanation as any for now.
Well, something to ponder.
Yes, occasionally it's wise to contemplate one's actions. But I'm certain Duncan has more for you to do than talk to me.
Well, unfortunately, Spartan, and we've actually already discussed this, please don't kill me, Evo, we know very little about the nitty-gritty specifics of what the Darkspawn are and how they came to be. What we do know is that they are corrupted people who are actively caustic to normal life. We know they have impact on the Fade, and they cause the material plane to distort and warp wherever they are. We know that they've been around at least since the first Blight. There are hints that they've been around since from before that. I feel like that's kind of it, to be completely... I mean, we know how the Archdemon works. We know what the Archdemons were, but we still don't know a whole lot of the whys and the wherefore. What came first, the chicken or the egg, is kind of a valid question with the Darkspawn. Probably the most compelling bit of dialogue I've ever seen with regards to the Darkspawn is... It was supposed to be gold. The line he says, I'm not going to give context, but, you know, it was supposed to be gold. The throne was empty. Like, that whole, the anger in his voice when he said that. The rage and the betrayal. It was black. Yeah, that whole scene. I honestly think, and I mean this with sincerity, that that's the most real insight we've had in the whole series as to the origins of the Darkspawn. Because the way it's presented and the way it's said is very clearly done in a manner that it's not a character reciting something that's wrong, you know, like oral history kind of a thing. And it's not someone trying to deceive or manipulate us, so we can present that as truth. Yeah, he wasn't lying, in other words. It's a great scene. It's probably going to get its own moment positive when we get there. And it's interesting to think about.
Soldiers of Ferelden, my sister...
Good answer, Colgrim. The best outro in gaming for me? Real talk, Dragon Age Origins is at least in the running for that. So, for those of you who don't know how I define outro, the reason I use such a generic term is because the outro can encompass multiple things, depending on the type of game. Final dungeon, final fight, ending, epilogue, right? There's multiple components there. In Dragon Age Origins, I would say the outro begins the moment the cutscene plays as we're going to Denerim, for example. So that's the beginning of the outro. And that's an awesome cutscene, with one notable exception. And it's got a really great gameplay sequence, and then some decent gameplay dungeon sections that I tend to enjoy by memory, excuse me. And then it's got a memorable build-up to a decent final boss fight, and then a great playable ending, and then a decent epilogue. So that's some pretty high marks. However, I would be lying if I said anything other than Final Fantasy VI is probably the first game that occurs to my mind when I think of a truly great outro. Final Fantasy VI's outro starts the moment you go to the final dungeon, and that is a very well-designed dungeon. Best designed dungeon in that game. Very rewarding, very atmospheric, great music, excellent visuals, some fantastic brickwork, just in general. The whole thing tells a story. There's just this wonderful atmosphere going on. Absolutely bonkers good enemy design, encounter design, and then multiple bosses, a lot of which are completely skippable. You know, optional bosses as you're going through, leading up to three probably the most challenging fights in the entire game, leading up to the fantastic final boss scene, and then the final boss himself, all four of them, and then a fantastic sequence of events, which is functionally the ending, and then the epilogue, which has no dialogue on it and doesn't need it, all while great music is playing. That's just bad. That's hitting every cylinder for that ending. But anyways, point being, the true greats, really, the true greats tend to have really good outros. That's a pretty recurring trend. Not every game with a great outro is a great game, but, you know. Hey look, it's someone who should die for his own good.
Welcome, young woman.
I'm here to free you!
Yes, and you are a mage of the Circle. You must be familiar with the Tranquil who serve there. I create and oversee the enchantment of weapons and armor for the King's forces here at Ostagar. It is a time-consuming process, but invaluable. Enchantment provides the Circle its wealth. Certainly we would not get by on charity.
Cool. Thanks for telling me. Also, as an aside... I know, Jesse Ward. As an aside, I can actually just check every game we've reviewed so far and see which one has the best scoring outro so far. It's probably Lufia 2. Let's see here. Dragon Quest Builders 2 had a strong outro. Ori and the Will of the Wisp had a strong outro. Shovel Knight had a very strong outro. Cyberpunk had a strong outro. Lufia 2. Yeah, that's expected. Earthbound. Tor Inquisitor, specifically, which I know doesn't really count, but we were keeping track as we went. All that's just purely on the story axis. So hang on, now let's look over here on the gameplay axis. This is why I like spreadsheets. We have Devil May Cry 3 for outro, in terms of gameplay. Ori and the Will of the Wisps, that sounds like a winner so far. Diablo 3, yeah. That's apparently it, gameplay-wise, of the ones we've covered so far. We have some really bad outros. Psychonauts 1. Kingsfield 4. Secret of the Stars. Drakengard. There's Kingsfield 4 again. Jesus. And you're probably thinking, oh, these are all pretty bad. Yeah. Yeah. But no, it's Mass Effect 3. The worst outro we've ever covered is Mass Effect 3. 13 negatives to story. And, hang on, let me find the gameplay axis here. And 3 negatives to gameplay. That's not good. That's not a particularly good outro. Also, I think that's not all of them. Because those are just the outro negatives, not all the other negatives for the outro, if that makes any sense. Because when we really start zooming in the camera, negatives can be given to different categories, even if we're in an outro. So, outro is kind of an umbrella term, on purpose. Not great, not great. But anyways.
Goodbye.
So, any last wishes I can help fulfill before you head into battle? Life is fleeting, you know. That pretty face could be decorating some Darkspawn spear this time tomorrow. Shall I take that quiet glare as a no? Oh, well, too bad. Well, you're not what I thought you'd be.
Hi, Davith. I mean, person I don't know.
The name's Davith. It's about bloody time you came along. I was beginning to think they cooked this ritual up just for our benefit.
What do you know about the ritual?
I happened to be sneaking around camp last night, see, and I heard a couple of Grey Wardens talking. So, I listened in for a bit. I'm thinking they plan to send us into the wilds.
Aren't there barbarians out there?
Chasing barbarians, yes. Cannibals, and witches too. My home village isn't far, and I grew up on tales about the wilds. Even been in there a few times. Scary place.
Interesting. Odd place for an army to camp.
I'm told the Blight started in the forest, so the army's here waiting for them to come out, dangling meat in front of the bear, if you catch my meaning. It's all too secretive for me. Makes my nose twitch. I guess we'll have to wait and see, like we have a choice.
I'll watch your back if you watch mine.
Oh, I'll watch your back.
Or I could just kill you.
That's a little extreme. It's not like I can miss the scenery, is it? Anyway, I expect it's time to get back to Duncan. That's where I'll be if you need me for anything.
Also, yes, I keep forgetting to turn this on. I usually just play with this option off, so I'm kind of used to it. Ugh! Okay.
Have you seen an elf running about? Young woman, red hair, carrying a suit of chain.
Can't say I have, no.
Blast it. Where did she go? That suit better be patched up when she gets back, or by the maker up. Oh, pardon my manners. My troubles are no concern of yours, I'm sure. I'm the quartermaster. Did you come for supplies?
Do you need help tracking this girl down?
Oh, I'm sure you have better things to do than run errands for me. I can find her myself.
Alright, what do you got?
Let me know what you'd like.
A Mabari crunch. No, No, Dr. Winter, but this wasn't my first BioWare game. Okay, so, I'm sorry, Caspian, I'm turning that option right back off. Not because of the brightness or the lighting, but because it adds a depth of field blur to the game, which even in a single cutscene is already starting to bother my eyes. So, sorry. We're just gonna not have that. We did that. That's nice.
In the name of Andraste, I bless you today. May you find favor in the Maker's eyes. So let it be.
I do like punching myself in the face a lot. I do it every day. I stream on the internet. No, I actually prefer this view. This is my preferred way of playing. But people were complaining about it earlier, so I thought we'd do this for a little bit. Oh, yeah, sorry. I wish you could talk to... Got confused, or distracted. Woo. Yeah, this will give people a headache. Now you can play it like I play it.
Greetings. You must be the third recruit we've heard about.
I am. Who are you?
Sir Jory is my name. I hail from Redcliffe, where I served as knight under the command of our layman. I was not aware they permitted women to join the Grey Wardens. None of those I've seen thus far have been.
Is that a problem?
You obviously impressed Duncan, and that's enough for me. I hope we're both lucky enough to eventually join the Wardens. Is it not thrilling to be given that chance?
Aren't you nervous about fighting Darkspawn?
I would be lying if I said I wasn't. As a boy, my mother told us Darkspawn hunted down all children who misbehaved. It is a foolish superstition, I know, but I still shiver when I think of fighting them. Tell me, has anyone told you what this joining ritual entails?
Only that it's dangerous.
I never heard of such a ritual. I had no idea there were more tests after getting recruited. I suppose since you're finally here, I'd best get back to Duncan. I shall see you there.
Well, that makes sense, Caspian, because... So, let's talk about this for just a moment, okay? What you're seeing right now is the game without any special effects to hide what the game looks like. I know that sounds a weird way to put that, but I mean that very deliberately. This right here is not intended to make the game look better. You may prefer it. You know, personal preference is personal preference, but that's not the purpose of these kind of effects. The extra layering, the shading, the bloom, and the depth of field that they do. This is intended to hide what the game actually looks like. Because if you turn it off, what you're seeing is the game without any of that extra fluff. This is just the game as is. Obviously, some people prefer one, some people prefer the other. Regardless of anything, I'm not going to leave that on because of the blur, and because the blur gives me headache issues. I do apologize, but that's a no-sell. But ignoring the blur, I admit I freely tend to prefer playing without all those extra bells and whistles. If I could use a comparison, there's an old game back in '99 called Asheron's Call, and in that game there's an option which is basically, do you want the fog or no? And if you've played any game from the late '90s or early aughts, you know what I mean by the fog. Now, most people prefer to play with the fog. They prefer to have that effect that makes it not look as much like an empty swath of video gamey textures. I am one of the weird people who prefers to not have the fog. I'm the person who loves playing Morrowind with the fog pushed way back. I'm the weirdo who actually likes playing WoW when you have that little mod, which we won't be showing on camera, which pushes the render radius out 1 billion miles, because WoW can actually handle that as an engine, and so forth and so on. So I actually, personally, prefer this option. I prefer being able to just see the textures as they are. They may or may not, I know you still need a mod to do it, Huthor, but you get my point. You may or may not need, you may or may not prefer this. You may or may not like this. That's up to you, and that's entirely valid. Again, personal preference is personal preference. I just thought I'd talk about it because it's always interesting to me how many tricks and tips we came up with for the better part of about 10 years in order to try and hide how we couldn't render the game the way we wanted it to look. Because that's what all this stuff really does, right? That's what all of these things actually accomplish. It wouldn't be until a much more modern games that they were able to actually make the game look like, let's call it what it is, Red Dead Redemption 2, which actually looks really good, as opposed to looks like this with some filters so you don't really notice. Speaking of things we spent too much time talking about in the lore run.
Huh. Someone finally comes and talks to the lone prisoner. I don't suppose you've come to sentence me?
You haven't been sentenced?
No. They put someone like me in a cage until someone important has time to decide what to do with me. I don't suppose you have a bit of kindness in you? All I want is food and water. They haven't fed me since I was locked up and I'm starving.
Why are you in there?
I'm a deserter. Or so they think. I bet there's no arguing them out of it, though. Armies are funny that way.
Did you desert?
I wasn't deserting. But when you catch someone sneaking around camp in the middle of the night, what else are you gonna think? Does it matter? All I want is a bit of food and water.
I'll see what I can do.
Just ask my guard for his. He's still got some dinner. I saw him put it in his coat.
Lucky dog. You Grey Wardens get to ride with the king while I'm left with the drudgery of guarding this deserter. They should have just hanged him. Put his head on a pike as an example.
So who is he exactly?
They say he was recruited before the war up in Dinnerham. Probably figured he'd never have to fight if he served the king, right?
Why do you want to desert?
Why does anyone want to desert? Because he thinks he's going to die and he's a bloody coward, that's why. Either that or he's been listening to a bunch of hogwash about how the Darkspawn will drag you off and eat you.
Seems a waste for you to guard him all day.
I can't just let him go, can I? The army will figure out what to do with him. Probably just waiting for someone important to make a decision. Then they'll hang him, I expect. And I can go and do something else.
Fresh reminder that life is cheap.
Don't expect it was an enlightening conversation.
He's asking for food and water.
Did he now? Since nobody sends me nothing to feed him with, the only way we'll get that is if I give him mine.
So you miss one meal, but he could be hanged soon.
All right, all right. I guess the poor fella could stand to have one meal in his belly before he hangs. Don't know why you care. I had nothing to do with it, though. If anyone asks why he's burping, I'm gonna say it was you. Just so you know.
I believe it's already on the list, Colgan. To answer your question directly.
So? Brought me some food, have you? I'm so hungry I could faint dead away.
Why would I want to help you?
Because you might want something I don't need. Them circle wizards got a chest they keep things in. Magical things. And I stole the key. That's why I'm here. I got one of them drunk, took his key and tried to sneak to the chest. They assumed I was deserting. I can't use it from here. But I'd trade you for some food and water.
They didn't get the key when you were arrested.
I swallowed it. But it's, come back into my possession since then, so to speak.
Right. That's kind of gross.
Yeah, well... Do you want the key or not?
Alright, here's some food.
Much obliged. May Andraste herself rain blessings upon you.
Yeah.
And, as I mentioned, here's the key. Use it in good health, huh?
That course of action is inadvisable.
As you wish.
Welcome, young woman.
I should go.
Goodbye.
Yeah, we can wait till the DLC. We're gonna do it anyways. That's not, that's related to dead levels, Dr. Winter, but that's a different thing. And I don't know the proper term for it. Mandatory unlocks. There is a term for it, and I can't remember it. It's when you get something only to get the thing after it. It's a really, really common problem when it comes to talents, especially badly designed talents, where there's a lot of filler talents, right? C, I think? Nope. E. There it is. This is not a great example of it, because this isn't a terribly designed talent tree, but WoW Vanilla, which has the worst talent tree in the history of the universe. I'm just kidding. But like Diablo 2, which was kind of the beginning of talent trees as a concept, is a good example of, you know, you have to get this worthless ability that you don't want to get this worthless ability you don't want in order to get this ability that you actually do want. It's a tax. It's a talent tax. And it kind of sucks, to be very honest with you. But the real problem here isn't the necessary unlocks or even the fact that you have to get it to get the other thing. What that really boils down to, my opinion, is failing to design the tree better. A properly designed talent tree does not have something that is a waste to get something else, either because there is no such thing or because there's something else bypassing it. Now, to go back to Diablo 2 for just a second, and I know Colgan got there before I did, Diablo 2 has something called synergies, which help with that problem. They do not get rid of it entirely, but it is a good idea. Synergies is, you get this ability you don't want, and this gives you a plus 6% bonus to this ability. You get this ability you don't want, but it makes this ability cheaper. And you can see how that can help mitigate problems, because even if you get something that is a filler ability, it is still ultimately helping. It's still useful. In fact, with synergies, you might actually put several points into a worthless ability you will never use, because it will buff an ability that you will. Best talent tree implementation? Wow. Current era. So we're having some texture issues, as per usual, like you do. Since we happen to know with total certainty that these are related to the memory leak, we're just going to go ahead with this. You know, I was thinking about it. Which would I rather have? A game like Baldur's Gate 3, which doesn't really have this kind of memory leak issue, but takes forever to start up the game, load a game, and save a game, or this game, which I have to restart periodically, but that took me like 5 seconds. Do you see how quick that was? Boom, done. I know it's because it's an older game, but I cannot overstress how much this is a relief after playing Baldur's Gate 3. You probably didn't notice, but towards the end, towards the last few days of Baldur's Gate 3, I got into the habit of not saving because it took so long for the save to go through. And I got in the habit of not loading to try out other routes or to try different options in the dialogue because it took so long to load. Whereas here, hang on. I'm gonna walk this way. Wait, nope, I've changed my mind. Done. Did you see how quick that was? Just boom. I should time that, just to really make the point. But I digress.
What is it now? Haven't Grey Wardens asked more than enough of the Circle?
I simply came to deliver a message from the revered mother, Sir Mage. She desires your presence.
What her reverence desires is of no concern to me. I am busy helping the Grey Wardens, by the King's orders, I might add.
Should I have asked her to write a note?
Tell her I will not be harassed in this manner.
Yes, I was harassing you by delivering a message.
Your glibness does you no credit.
Here I thought we were getting along so well. I was even going to name one of my children after you. The Grumpy One.
Enough. I will speak to the woman if I must. Get out of my way, fool.
You know, one good thing about the Blight is how it brings people together.
That quote right there, this is not a joke, is, in my opinion, the quote of Dragon Age Origins. If you were to summarize the whole game in one sentence, that's the sentence. Welcome to Alistair. We will have a lot to talk about with regards to him as we go, but I want to ask an honest question. No judgment. How many of you do not like Alistair? Raise your hands. You'll notice I am not raising my hand, and that's because he's my second favorite character in this game. But I found out when I started drifting into the internet and started interacting with a larger audience, the more people, I started to hear a lot of people who really didn't like Alistair, to the point where I was just kind of gobsmacked. Like, I've heard vitriol for this man. I was just idly curious. But let's talk about character introductions. We'll be talking about each of the main party member characters as they're introduced. So, sarcastic, bit sardonic, bit acerbic, bit of a jokester, you know, okay, sure, we've got a little bit of an establishment there. But what's really interesting about his dialogue, and this is the thing you kind of have to pay attention to, is everything he's saying is perfectly legit, and you could tell he has... I don't want to say he's level-headed, because that feels like the wrong way to phrase that, but there's no malice in him. And that's important. Some people, when they joke, or they jab, or they poke fun, or whatever, they do so from a very caustic perspective, right? They do it with that kind of demeanor of, screw you. Alistair does it, well, mostly as a cover for his real problems, but also because the fact that he's legitimately trying to help. He is honestly a very decent person under his skin. Yeah, there's a genuineness to Alistair, which, as it happens, makes him something of a rarity in this game. So, you're a very strange man.
You're not the first woman to tell me that. Wait, we haven't met, have we? I don't suppose you happen to be another mage?
We haven't met. You must be Alistair.
And that makes you Duncan's new recruit, I suppose. Glad to meet you. As the junior member of the Order, I'll be accompanying you when you prepare for the joining.
Pleased to meet you. My name's Loretta.
Right, that was the name. You know, it just occurred to me that there have never been many women in the Grey Wardens. I wonder why that is.
You might think it's sexism. You'd be wrong. It's a much worse reason.
I'm getting that impression. So I'm curious. Have you ever actually encountered Darkspawn before?
No. I do on some of my origins, but not this one.
When I fought my first one, I wasn't prepared for how monstrous it was. I can't say I'm looking forward to encountering another. Anyhow, whenever you're ready, let's get back to Duncan. I imagine he's eager to get things started.
Hang on. What was with that argument?
With the mage. The Circle is here at the King's request, and the Chantry doesn't like that one bit. They just love letting mages know how unwelcome they are, which puts me in a bit of an awkward position. I was once a Templar.
You were a mage hunter?
Not that that's all Templars do, but yes, the Chantry raised me until Duncan recruited me 6 months ago. I'm sure the revered mother meant it as an insult, sending me as her messenger. and the mage picked right up on that. I never would have agreed to deliver it, but Duncan says we're all to cooperate and get along. Apparently they didn't get the same speech.
I'm pretty sure what Duncan actually said was, hey, you see this giant neon sign over my head that says, I got other things to worry about? But what about Blight. Let's go. But no, don't want to hear it. Blight. Ahem. What about the other recruits?
Davith and Sir Jory are here in the camp. Have you met them?
Yeah, actually.
That makes things easy then. They'll both be back with Duncan by now.
I look forward to traveling with you. And having all the sex with you.
You do? Huh. That's a switch. If you have any questions, let me know. Otherwise, lead on.
Tutorial. When you're not controlling them, party members act according to tactics you're set. Click him. Now open the tactics screen. That's not the tactics screen. Here are the custom tactics. You can set him to defender. Alright, so let's get this out of the way. Gambit's good. I would go so far as to say that these gambits are probably triple positive territory. So I'm just going to jot that down right now. Gambits are good. More games need gambits. I am shocked and gobsmacked that more games do not offer the ability to custom craft the AI your party members go through. The term gambit comes from Final Fantasy XII. Same system. Almost identical, actually, system. But the reason this one is actually probably better than Final Fantasy XII is because you have multiple presets. You've got the pre-existing presets if you don't care, which is good. You've got the custom presets if you want to set up your own, which is good. You've got multiple custom presets if you want to set up multiple setups for your characters, which is good. All of this is good. This is fantastic. You can also change their behavior, which is fairly self-explanatory. You can also disable tactics, just turn them off completely if you want to do everything manually, which is awesome. Let's get rid of that. There we go. Yeah, Dragon Age 2 has tactics. Inquisition... Anyways, in my opinion, this is probably the best gambit system I've seen in gaming. However, as with most things like this, even this game does still have a flaw. And the flaw is the one you're staring at right now. I have 3 slots for gambits. And you don't need that many, but the fact that you only have 3 as an option is completely unnecessary. It serves as another form of character tax. I don't remember the button. It's one of these buttons. I think it's this one. Hey, there we go. They want you to spend points on these. Combat tactics, improved combat tactics, expert combat tactics, and master combat tactics. This sucks. Right here. I will actually debate a negative for this. Because you'll notice these also require cunning. So it's a tax on your attributes, and it's a tax on your skill points. That sucks. Now, yeah, also cunning is a dumb stat for most classes, or most specs or builds or whatever. For example, it'll be a dumb stat for our build. So, that sucks. I absolutely think this is negative territory, which is a damn shame, because I just gave it positives, but here we are. I'm going to do one other thing here, though. There we go. Yeah, no kidding, Jesse Ward. Actually, it's 4 positives, 1 negative, but it absolutely I stand by it. Words. You'll notice, by the way, this is another little fun thing. To further emphasize the negative for this, obviously, virtually every game, I think literally every game we've covered except for 1, will get the negative for the mandatory persuasion stat to gameplay, because it's the mandatory persuasion stat. But yeah, only the main character can get it. Now, there's a logic to that, but it means, by default, the main character automatically has less skill points to use than everybody else. because you have to dump it into... Well, you don't have to, but it is so encouraged that you dump extra points into these 4. Which, by the way, also requires cunning. So we will have to raise our cunning to 16 just to get our coercion up to Master Coercion. Cool. My favorite origin, having just gone through them with a fully analytical mind, Imperial Star Destroyer, is Dwarf Noble. Dwarf Noble, I know I would have said that before, but there's a reason I like to go through these things and reanalyze my own opinion on the matter. Dwarf Noble does a lot right, and it does almost nothing wrong. A huge amount of it's optional, which is actually a benefit, I would say. It gives you an insight into combat, into politics, into world building. It's got good dialogue, it's got good characters, it's got hints from other origins. It sets up a huge chunk of the game in terms of backstory and what's going on with Orzammar. It makes perfect sense how we're railroaded and why we're railroaded into things. It gives us an opinion on Balin and what's going to be going on with him and the battle for Orzammar. That's true. It also has a puzzle tutorial, the only one, I believe, that does that, unless you count the talk puzzle in the Mage Origin, etc., etc. It fires on every piston, you know. However, I will admit my opinions on the other origins have changed slightly with regards... Oh, that's true. It's also a good introduction to the Darkspawn. My opinions on the other origins has changed slightly this time around based on full analysis. Dwarf Commoner has risen to be my second favorite, which isn't really a huge problem. Human Noble has reinforced itself as my third favorite. And this is the real shocker to me. City Elf comes really close to being one of my favorites. I don't think it could surpass Dwarf Noble, but I think City Elf could have been at the level of Dwarf Commoner, if not for the squick. Because if, and we showed this yesterday, if you eject the squick from City Commoner, all of a sudden it's really good. Like as I showed on camera, it's got good structure, it's got good events, it's got good railroading, it's got good establishment, it's got good character. Even the gameplay portions of it, which vary based on your gender, also do a good job of tutorializing and building up and designing how and what you can do. And Dalish Elf remains at the bottom where it belongs. All right, so moving on. Whoops, we're Alistair. We don't want to be Alistair. Although, actually, while we're here, I do want to make sure he is activate shield color, shield bass, and shield pummel. Yep, nope, he's good. For the moment. I do want you to be on default. Okay, cool. Dalish Elf is the best, Zyad, is what I was trying to say. Best origin. By far. Nothing. Like, this bag of carrots is nothing compared to the Dalish intro. Please don't kill me. I know the show's going downhill. I'm so sorry. Although, actually... I mean, I don't know if I've ever actually established this before, but to be very clear about it, the first origin I ever played in this entire game, the very, 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 very first time I played this game, was City Elf. Boy, did that taint my opinion of this game. Let's see. Poor understanding of Tolkien's mythos, Gum. Just like most fantasy. Why are dwarves the way they are? Poor understanding of Tolkien's mythos. Why are the orcs bad guys? Poor understanding of Tolkien's mythos. If I might be so bold, one of the reasons I like Warcraft is because it's a well-written and interesting setting. But the other reason is because it doesn't just follow lockstep with Tolkien, which I know shouldn't be a positive, but it's so rare. Anyways, do I want to go with that yet? I mean, pretty much, Jesse Ward. Pretty much. Yeah, let's go ahead and get mage armor, or rather earth armor for now. Sit on that for a moment. Hey, we got a tactic slot! Woo! I mean, I know I'm in the minority on this, but I legitimately like Medicine's writing, and I will not shy away from that opinion. Make fun if it is thy wish. Oh, yeah! Dragon Age Origins helmets. Oh, they're so good. They're so good. I can barely keep myself from throwing up. Okay. He has not written any books. He's written for Warcraft, obviously. He's written for StarCraft. He does tend to write the same story. It's probably his biggest weakness. I agree with you completely, Loner. I know you say that jokingly, but he does tend to write the same story. If you look at some of the major beats of StarCraft, especially Brood War story, if you look at the major beats of Warcraft 3 and early WoW up to Legion, essentially, and if you look at his setting, the one he's currently been pushing, his own pen and paper campaign, you see a lot of the same beats there. So, right, that's what I wanted to check. Oop. Okay, just double checking. Okay, we're cool.
You found Alistair, did you? Good. I'll assume you're ready to begin preparations. Assuming, of course, that you're quite finished riling up mages, Alistair.
What can I say? The revered mother ambushed me. The way she wields guilt, they should stick her in the army.
She forced you to sass the mage, did she? We cannot afford to antagonize anyone, Alistair. We don't need to give anyone more ammunition against us.
You're right, Duncan. I apologize.
Now then, since you're all here, we can begin. You four will be heading into the Kokari Wilds to perform 2 tasks. The first is to obtain 3 vials of Darkspawn blood, 1 for each recruit.
Real quick, I hate to interrupt, but we continue to get more characterization for Duncan. He's a lot better at navigating political spaces than most other wardens that we see. And he's certainly better at it than Alistair, which makes sense, because Alistair is relatively new. You'll also notice that Alistair, who is functionally innocent here, like what is Alistair guilty of? Being snarky to someone who's being an asshole to him. Because let's be clear, a lot of this is on the revered mother, who decided to use him to make a political jab, and the guy who received the jab. And Alistair was just trying to make light of the situation, because that's what he does. It's his primary coping mechanism. It is Duncan who has to point out the realities of the situation, that this is something that could lead to something real. Which once again goes to the general genuineness, also naivete, of Alistair. Just yet another little tidbit there. I've given my opinion on Alistair's potential leadership qualities several times, and I will do so again. But I have to admit, having had a long time to think about it, Alistair really shouldn't be in charge. He's much more Merrick than he is Loghain, and I think that's a pretty apt comparison. Because Merrick, by many accounts, did not know what he was doing. He did not know how to command, or to lead, or to generally be in charge. What Merrick knew how to do was to get the people together, to inspire them, and to be that kind of person that people wanted to be. He was good at engendering loyalty. Merrick, I've said this before, Merrick and Loghain were both necessary components to the rebellion, and without both, it would have failed. Yeah, exactly. Merrick had the charisma stat, Loghain had the int and arguably wisdom stat. And, yeah. Of course. Some people would argue that Honora is the int and wisdom to this one. All I know is that I'm going to murder Honora. I'm just gonna murder her face off. I'm gonna be like, hello, Honora. How are you? We've never met, but I'm going to murder your face off, okay? And I'm a Grey Warden, so I'm gonna get away with it. She's gonna be like, what? And then just, and she's dead. What's the second task?
There was once a Grey Warden archive in the wilds, abandoned long ago when we could no longer afford to maintain such remote outposts. It has recently come to our attention that some scrolls have been left behind, magically sealed to protect them. Alistair, I want you to retrieve these scrolls if you can.
Archive, 3 vials. What kind of scrolls?
Old treaties, if you're curious. Promises of support made to the Grey Wardens long ago. They were once considered only formalities. With so many having forgotten their commitments to us, I suspect it may be a good idea to have something to remind them with.
To my knowledge, you actually cannot kill an aura. I could be wrong. There's a surprising amount of malleability to your choices in this game, which most players will never, ever see, because this game was not designed with a sequel in mind, which you might be wondering, what does that have to do with anything? Well, when you design a game with a sequel in mind, you need the game to end at a specific point, right here. The pieces need to be in place so you know, at least roughly, the state of the world for when you start the sequel. But Dragon Age Origins, by virtue of not having that limitation, just did this. And so there's actually a decent variety of end states this world could end in. So, you know, that's cool. But for probably the first time ever, I find myself actually agreeing with Meadfist. I don't particularly consider Anora to be an intelligent person. She's opportunistic to the point of deleterious. She will backstab at the drop of a hat. She has... How many of you have seen The Last Days of Foxhound? Because she's got the same condition that Revolver Ocelot does. And that's all I'm going to say about that. Anyways. So, how will we find the archive?
It will be an overgrown ruin by now, but the sealed chest should remain intact. Alistair will guide you to the area you need to search.
What if they're no longer there?
It's possible the scrolls may have been destroyed or even stolen, though the seal's magic should have protected them. Only a Grey Warden can break such a seal.
I don't understand. Why leave such things in a ruin if they're so valuable?
It was assumed that we would someday return. A great many things were assumed that have not held true.
Right. Okay. Archive, Vials of Blood. You got it.
Watch over your charges, Alistair. Return quickly and safely.
We will.
Then may the Maker watch over your path. I will see you when you return.
Now, to be clear, and I don't want to overpraise this game, I love what they do with this. Hear me out for a second. The whole game, from depending on origin, has been amping up Darkspawn as a doom threat, something that is the kind of thing that's above the pay grade of your typical soldier or sword arm or adventurer. We're going out to kill we're going out to hunt Darkspawn, multiple of them, deliberately and knowingly, because that's kind of our job. Now, nothing really makes us more badass than anything else other than the sheer fact of that we are a PC, so that's kind of why I don't want to overpraise this. But I do like the idea implied here, just kind of left in the background, that this is why we're the PC. This is why we're the adventurers, because we can do the kind of thing that other people simply are not capable of. It's framed and structured as a typical low-level quest. We're going to kill rats. But, you know, we're going to kill Darkspawn. Like, imagine if rats were something that most people couldn't deal with, and that's kind of where we're at. So, first real adventuring area time. First dungeon, if you will.
Hail. I'm told you all have business in the wilds. The gate's open for you. Just be careful out there. Even a Grey Warden won't be safe in the forest tonight.
Dark rats. Rock rats, no! Wrong. Real quick. So I mentioned that we'd talk more about gameplay concepts when it came to actually doing a real game. And this is a good time as any to talk about sustained abilities. Allow me to admit that I love the concept of sustained abilities. It's an extraordinarily small number of games I see that pull this off. In fact, I can only think of two off the top of my head. Dragon Age and Guild Wars 1. Sustained abilities is this stuff right here. You use it. I know it's hard to see because the interface is so damn small. But that sounds awful, Evo. But if you look in the upper left, my maximum mana has been reduced because a portion of it is reserved for the sake of the ability that I'm maintaining, the enchantment. This is awesome from multiple perspectives. Apparently Path of Exile does this as well. I wouldn't know. I didn't like Path of Exile. I walked away from it hard, and I'm never going back. In fact, I think it's on the veto list. But it's great. It works with magic or stamina, by the way, which is another great thing. So it's also malleability, too. Yeah, it's like the concentration thing in Baldur's Gate 3, but much more gradient, which works much better. It allows you to reserve a portion of your resource in order to maintain an enchant. You can do multiple, of course, and you can reserve your mana or stamina for using abilities if you prefer to. It's one of the things that helps the build gameplay of this game. And it's, like I said, it's a gradient too. It's not something that's all or nothing. You don't have your concentration at the end. Looking at you, 5th edition. It's, I want to maintain this buff and maybe this buff. But I can't spam abilities because half my mana or stamina is being reserved for that. You get the idea. I love it. I love it. It's a great system. It's definitely positive. We're going to put that under core combat. The sustained system. I'm thinking at least 2 positives for it because I love this system. I'll debate that as we go. That's true. It's also percentage based. That's a good point. It says right there. 5%? Yeah, that doesn't sound right. 40 reserved. Oh, whatever. Something somewhere says it. I believe you, Colgrim. I've never played the Sacred Games, and I hate path effects also. It makes sense that I wouldn't know those. Oh no, it's a wolf, which naturally would approach 4 armed people and try to kill them. Because that's wolf behavior. I'm holding on to my abilities. Don't worry, I'm sure several people will point out throughout this run that I need to level. Because I like to sit on ability points until I'm ready to spend them. So, I anticipate you'll be one of approximately 50,000 people who will tell me that throughout the course of this run. We do not have spell combos yet, and therefore have not actually shown them off yet.
This should be easy enough.
Yeah, first! Gotta get that in there.
Over here.
So, to further help emphasize the thing I was just talking about, to emphasize what the Darkspawn are to normal people...
Who is that? Grey Wardens?
Well, he's not half as dead as he looks, is he?
My scouting band was attacked by Darkspawn. They came out of the ground. Please, help me. I've got to return to camp.
Alright, bandage him up.
I have bandages in my pack.
Thank you. I've got to get out of here.
Yeah, he's turbo dead.
Did you hear? An entire patrol of seasoned men killed by Darkspawn.
Calm down, Sir Jory. We'll be fine if we're careful.
Those soldiers were careful, and they were still overwhelmed. How many Darkspawn can the 4 of us slay? A dozen? 100? There's an entire army in these forests.
There are Darkspawn about, but we're in no danger of walking into the bulk of the Horde.
How do you know? I'm not a coward, but this is foolish and reckless. We should go back.
You are a coward. It's probably your major story point. But it's okay, this is a BioWare game. Something BioWare likes to do with its characters, which I don't mind, by the way. I know several people speak negatively about this, but I'm not one of them. Is I like to introduce a character who seems to be A, but is actually B. It's usually just a single subversion, you know, 2-dimensional kind of characters. But, I don't know, I think it's a decent pattern, and I'm with it. I mean, I like Final Fantasy VII, so what the hell do I know? Anyways, so Jory here is he's the volunteer. He signed up to become a Grey Warden. He was ready to go into it. But actually, no, he's the one who doesn't really have what it takes to really do this kind of thing full time. At least at the moment. I'm sure we will see a lot of his character develop as we go throughout the course of the game. Daggeth, by the contrast, he took this instead of the noose, or whatever penalty was being given him. So conscripted thief. And yet, as you can see, he's got a little bit more of the nobility in him. He stands up without hesitation and is willing to be right here. So I look forward to seeing, you know, how he develops throughout the course. I can't even do it with a straight face. How he develops throughout the course of the game. We'll be fine.
I still do not relish the thought of encountering an army.
Know this. All Grey Wardens can sense Darkspawn. Whatever their cunning, I guarantee they won't take us by surprise. That's why I'm here.
You see, Sir Knight, we might die, but we'll be warned about it first.
That is reassuring.
That doesn't mean I'm here to make this easy, however. So let's get a move on.
Yeah, I always get the impression, I could be wrong about this, that Jory is one of those bookworm knights. I don't know what else to call it. Someone who doesn't have field experience, right? He's fought in tournaments, you know, he's fought in play fights, things where things weren't real or serious. He probably has a lot of experience making thrusts and movements and practice. But never, yeah, an academy knight. Yeah, he never actually got out there and has fought in, you know, a real battle. By contrast, Davith over there. Anyways, moving on. Let's go and grab some flowers. We don't want to let poor Darkspawn die. That would be awful. Oh yeah, and let me just write down some character pluses here while we're here. Yeah, let's do this. Have fun, Mr. Red. I agree, Jesse's man. That's what I was debating. I was debating that just now. I think I agree.
Destroy the fiends.
Oh, okay.
A little frantic? Ha! I can see why. Come now, defend yourself. Let's get started.
Let me get our files here.
Darkspawn approach. Watch for their blood.
Over here. The combat music in this game is not going to be a positive. I don't know if it's going to be a negative, but it's definitely not going to be a positive. So, let's get this out of the way. BioWare starter companions always die. Like it's a meme. It's a meme, okay? Let's just acknowledge that it's not a spoiler. It's a meme. Yeah, that's the one, Midfist. Yeah, Jenkins in Mass Effect 1. Of course, now I can't think of it best. The guard in Neverwinter Nights 1. I can't remember the name of the dude in Jade Empire who could die. Trask Olgo in KOTOR. God, I don't remember. There's several. The point I'm trying to reach here is that, as with all tropes, I feel like it can be done well and it can be done poorly. Which brings me to, Nihilus in Mass Effect 1 as well. The traitor guy in Mass Effect 2. Which brings me to my point. Which of the doomed red shirt party members was your personal favorite across all of these? Yeah, Jenkins' name is Jenkins. The kid in Mass Effect 3. You see why I'm bringing this up. Jory and Davith is almost always brought up as one of the better examples of these. If I might go against the grain for a second, the woman whose name I can't even remember in Awakening is one of my other personal favorites, which means that my two favorites are Dragon Age Origins and Dragon Age Origins. But whatever. Yeah, fun fact, and I don't want to read too much into this, my viewership has consistently been higher during Dragon Age Origins than it was during Baldur's Gate 3.
As you wish.
Shrug. Well, like I said, I don't think that means Baldur's Gate 3 is better or worse, or even in between. I think there's two major factors there. First of all, people avoiding spoilers. And second of all, lots of people are streaming Baldur's Gate 3 right now. But I think there's another reason. And I'm curious if any of you currently present fall into this category. I've already heard some people being sick about Baldur's Gate 3. Obviously, I kind of fell into that category as well, if I'm being completely honest with you. But, I mean, there's been a positive circle of death circling Baldur's Gate 3 lately. 10 out of 10s, best game ever made. Or, yeah, I think there's some pendulum effect going on. And going immediately from Baldur's Gate 3 into Dragon Age Origins, a game that most people have long since decided that they enjoy. You see the logic there. I don't know if that's true or not. I'm just speculating in a vacuum. And Meadfist is correct. As I've said before, I couldn't tell a joke to save my life. So I mentioned this in part because when I did my little brief on the fly, not really planned review on the non-archive channel in order for Baldur's Gate 3, one of the most common comments I got a lot of comments on that review, was people saying how they liked having an actual review instead of someone just blindly praising the game as the second coming of Jesus Christ. And I'm kind of in the same boat, like I said. Here's the thing, to be very clear about this, Baldur's Gate 3 is a good game. I liked it. It was a 200+ game, and I stand by that. But I do think people who have been going just way into it, as if it was walking up and shining their shoes while giving them a blowjob, is honestly just a little bit too much. Yes, even the women. It's harder to do than it sounds. Alright, so, point being... No, exactly, Meatus. It's a damn good game. 200, it's the third best RPG I've ever reviewed in my current system, which is extraordinarily impressive. We've covered a lot of RPGs. Some really good ones, too. Thank you, Evo. But no, exactly, Ronan. And I've noticed a really common trend that an overwhelming majority of reviewers haven't gotten past Act 1. I don't say that as an insult. I say that as a statement of fact. I know the better reviewers are the ones who have flat out admitted that they have not yet gotten past Act 1 and said, yeah, this is as far as I am. And considering that my opinion of that game nosedives the moment we hit Act 3, I think that makes sense. But several people in chat are saying something that also echoes my opinion on the matter. I think that by sheer virtue of being a good CRPG in a market that honestly doesn't have a lot of really good CRPGs in it, really helps. Really helps. I mean, what was the last really good CRPG we had? I'm asking kind of sincerely, because I think it was Wasteland 3, which I wouldn't call that great. Wasteland 3 certainly didn't make a splash. We've got Pathfinder, which I haven't played, so I can't talk about. Which brings us back to DOS 2. And then before DOS 2, we had the first Pathfinder, and before Pathfinder, we had... what? Solasta? No, Giga. Of the list I just mentioned, this is based mostly on popular opinion, not RPG fans' opinion. I would say that the last big CRPG that made a splash was the one we're playing now. I don't mean that as an insult, really. I just mean it as something that I've noticed in my observations. That Dragon Age Origins made a splash. People who weren't into CRPGs, who weren't into RPGs, were playing this game. Then several good CRPGs have come out since then, but none of them really made the kind of impact that this game did. And now we have Baldur's Gate 3. Either way, thank you, Cloden, very, very, very much. Always appreciate that support. Thank you so much. I'm glad you like my videos, and I hope you like my streams, even if it's just on the VODs. If you want to put that towards up to 3 future streams, if you have anything interesting that you want to see in the future, please let me know. I don't want to get into a definitions argument, but I wouldn't call BRPGs CRPGs. I give them their own genre definition on purpose. So, I wouldn't count New Vegas or Skyrim or any of that stuff. Which is funny, because Skyrim absolutely made a splash. Arguably far too much of one. Skyrim, no offense to everybody who likes Skyrim, including me, but Skyrim is the perfect example of how popularity does not equal quality. Right this way. Okay, just making sure, sorry. I mean, it's fine, just you word. Like I said, absolutely no insult intended to people who are into Skyrim. I'm curious how it will review when we put it under the microscope. I'm curious how it will actually hold up upon, proper analysis and review, because I have no idea. We know how Oblivion reviewed. It was pretty good. A lot of its flaws and difficulties pulled it down from what otherwise would be a fantastic game. It's still reviewed well, just not in, like, top 10 territory. I'm pretty sure I know how Morrowind will score, aka not particularly well. No offense again. With Skyrim? I have absolutely no idea how Skyrim will review. Whoop, 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 whoop. And Daggerfall, I'd rather eat rusted nails than review, so, we got that going for us. I also prefer Oblivion to Skyrim. In fact, I prefer Oblivion to any of the BRPGs. Well,
let's get started.
The Elder Scrolls ones. Hey, look. A commander's helm. A chastened flat blade, and a letter. For me? What about Morrowind? Apparently I misspoke. Let me say that one more time to be a little bit more clear. I prefer Oblivion over any of the BRPGs. Personally. Now, I don't think it'll score the highest. I honestly think New Vegas will take that particular crown. But Oblivion... I don't enjoy playing Morrowind, is the simplest way I could put that. There's a lot of good in Morrowind. I just don't enjoy actually playing it. Deus Ex Human Revolution. You got it, Clip. Thank you again very much. Always appreciate you. We actually showed that off one day. We were like, alright, let's go ahead and pop in and see what happens. We got attacked by a worm, and the worm killed us because we couldn't hit it. No, you gotta say it right, Giga. Like, oi! And then he's dead.
This should be easy enough. Right.
Like, don't mistake me. I, of all people, can appreciate that there are some old games that have aged wonderfully well and are still very good to this very day.
Right away.
And then there's the other older games.
Very well.
Aw, see you around, Giga. Hopefully. Come on. Drag him back. Drag him back. With GTA 3. Ah! This or Mass Effect? We have reviewed Mass Effect, but we've never reviewed this game, Christopher Falcon, so I don't know.
It's either you or me, and it isn't going to be me.
See, I'm kind of the same way for the opposite reason, Meat Fist. I grew up with Morrowind. Or, well, grew up. I was in college? When did Morrowind come out? Someone look up the timing on it, because I remember when I was really playing Morrowind. And that was at a pretty dark part of my life. 2002. Yeah, okay. That's what I thought. Anyway, so some bad stuff was happening in my life when I played Morrowind. And, yeah, that was my escape, and I'm not particularly proud of that, but Morrowind was my escape bubble. That's where I went to not think about my life. I still think Oblivion's a better game. Of course, it's just personal opinion on that. It's okay, Evo. So, how's your Pepsi coffee? Pepsi? Coffee? It was all there was, Meat Fist. Kinda literally. That was the option. Didn't have access to my consoles at the time, because they were off in another state. Too much foam. The bane of all drinks. There was this one tap cafe, excuse me, that had really, really good root beer. I don't know what it was. They never actually told me. It was this one really good thing, root beer. And they would give you a mug of it, and it always used to piss me off because half the mug was foam. And I used to be like, can I get... Like, can I... And they'd be like, no, that's what you get. But I have half a cup of root beer. No? Okay, whatever. Well, the good news is we won't be meeting one of the best party members, if not the best party member in the game in a moment. And no, it's not because of the actress, although she helps. And no, it's not because she's wearing negligee.
No mercy! Come, you can do better than that!
She's so cold in her tent all alone. If only someone could keep her warm for the night.
Show me what you've got! Time for some fun! Let's get started. How about you? Strike true!
I do like how quick and easy it is to loot. So you'll probably see me loot more than you will see in most games. Because it's just boop, 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 boop. And that's it. We're done. Yeah, get a thicker blanket, lady. God. I'm gonna... this button. Sorry, I had to remember what it was. Oh, you don't... Okay, cool. A personal canon playthrough? I do, Dr. Winter. It's the one I did in preparation for Dragon Age 2. The one I have still adhered to this day. I won't tell you all the choices, because obviously several of them are spoilers for this point, but elven male mage who romanced Morrigan. What even? So speaking of character introductions, let's pay attention to this one.
Well, well. What have we here? Are you a vulture, I wonder? A scavenger, poking amidst a corpse whose bones were long since cleaned? Or merely an intruder, come into these darkspawn-filled wilds of mine in search of easy prey? What say you, Scavenger or intruder?
And it's simple, but that's kind of her introduction, right there. Even the way she moves and the way she walks, the camera looking up at her as she descends to us, you see a lot of posturing and presumption. Which makes perfect sense, given how much of a mask Morrigan has had to maintain for years and years and years. And yeah, we also see the reaction of the other characters upon seeing her. And also, like it or not, the outfit she's wearing is part of that initial introduction. This is someone who has absolutely no problem wielding sex as a weapon. And that is part of her mentality, the idea that survival is paramount, and that she is used to a rather unpleasant life. And so she has become accustomed to using whatever weapon is available. Morrigan. Now, fortunately, as with BioWare tends to be, there usually tends to be the thing where, there's more layers to her and blah, 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 but we'll see how that goes this time around. I am neither. The Grey Wardens once owned this tower.
'Tis a tower no longer. The wilds have obviously claimed this desiccated corpse. I have watched your progress for some time. Where do they go, I wondered? Why are they here? And now you disturb ashes none have touched for so long. Why is that?
Don't answer her. She looks chastened, and that means others may be nearby.
Oh, you fear barbarians will swoop down upon you.
Yes, swooping is bad.
She's a witch of the wilds, she is. She'll turn us into toads.
Witch of the wilds. Such idle fancies, those legends. Have you no minds of your own? You there. Women do not frighten like little boys. Tell me your name and I shall tell you mine.
Loretta. Pleasure to meet you.
Now that is a proper civil greeting, even here in the wilds. You may call me Morrigan. Shall I guess your purpose? You sought something in that chest? Something that is here no longer?
Here no longer. You stole them, didn't you? You're some kind of sneaky witch thief.
How very eloquent. How does one steal from dead men?
Pretty easy. We do it all the time.
Those documents are Grey Warden property, and I suggest you return them.
I will not, for 'twas not I who removed them. Invoke a name that means nothing here any longer if you wish. I am not threatened.
Notice, by the way, that she automatically assumes we're in an antagonistic interaction. Which makes sense, because, again, that's the life she's led. She has this thing where her fur is always on end. Her spikes are always out. Her claws are always unfurled. Because she's always assuming that from all angles there's going to be someone who's trying to use, misuse, abuse, or otherwise be an enemy to her. It's the lifestyle she's led up to this point. She's just accustomed to it. Yeah, exactly. She's always on the defensive. It is one of my favorite arcs of trying to prove to her that there are some people who are not, you know, always out for themselves, that there is such a thing as altruism. But I digress a little bit. And yeah, the worst thing is I can't blame her for her attitude. She has a perfectly valid attitude, and it served her very well for a very long time. So, please, who removed them?
'Twas my mother, in fact.
Your mother?
Yes, my mother. Did you assume I spawned from a log?
A thieving, weird talking log, perhaps?
Not all in the wilds are monsters. Flowers grow as well as toads. If you wish, I will take you to my mother. 'Tis not far from here, and you may ask her for your papers if you like.
We should get those treaties, but I dislike this Morrigan's sudden appearance. It's too convenient.
Tell us more about your mother first.
She prefers her privacy, but I imagine she will be curious enough why you are here. Come, see for yourself.
Yes, you did, Rain36, sorry. Oh yeah, by the way, did you notice that we've already got good banter between Morrigan and Alistair? First interaction! First time we see the two, and they've already got a little bit of the banter going on. Speaking of which, I gotta jot that down. Oh yeah, and we also have to jot down the negative. You know, the one every BioWare game gets. The limited party member problem. Now, I know we literally just gave this negative to Baldur's Gate 3. But... yeah, we also gave this negative to Mass Effect. All three of them. Let's see. I'm pretty sure we put that under gameplay, but let's double check. We might not have. We might have put it under story. That's why I'm double checking these things. Oh, my bad. It is, in fact, a story negative. A rare story negative for Dragon Age Origins. It's especially irritating in this exact game because there's a lot of really good banter in this game, and I bet most people haven't heard half of it. Because you can only have the 3 party members. So, honest answer. Are you a Witch of the Wilds?
Have I been dishonest? Some call us witches, yes, but purely out of superstition.
You know what the Circle of Magi is, don't you? The Circle requires an accounting of all mages. That is the law of the land and the Chantry.
If you wish to tell your chantry about me, go ahead. I have nothing to fear from priests.
As we've seen in, I believe it was the comic that showed that off. She did a good job of killing those guys. Why are you interested in helping us?
Why not? I do not meet many people here. Are you all so mistrustful?
Interesting thing from you to say.
She'll put us all in the pot, she will. Just you watch.
If the pot's warmer than this forest, it'd be a nice change.
Follow me then, if it pleases you. Greetings, Mother. I bring before you 4 Grey Wardens who...
I see them, girl. Much as I expected.
Hello, Kate
Are we
Mulgrew.
supposed to believe you were expecting us?
You are required to do nothing, least of all believe. Shut one's eyes tight or open one's arms wide. Either way, one's a fool.
She's a witch, I tell you. We shouldn't be talking to her.
Quiet, Dareth. If she's really a witch, do you want to make her mad?
There is a smart lad. Sadly irrelevant to the larger scheme of things, but it is not I who decides. Believe what you will. And what of you? Does your woman's mind give you a different viewpoint? Or do you believe as these boys do?
I believe that you are crazy and possibly dangerous.
Is that all? Surely your mind stretches farther than these surroundings. So much about you is uncertain, and yet I believe. Do I? Why, it seems I do.
So this is a dreaded Witch of the Wilds.
Witch of the Wilds, huh? Morrigan must have told you that. She fancies such tales, though she would never admit it. Oh, how she dances under the moon.
They did not come to listen to your wild tales, Mother.
True, they came for their treaties, yes? And before you begin barking, your precious seal wore off long ago. I have protected these.
You... Oh, you protected them?
And why not? Take them to your Grey Wardens and tell them this Blight's threat is greater than they realize.
I always liked the idea of the Flemeth that, for whatever she is, she recognizes the same thing most people do. That Darkspawn are a universal threat, an existential threat. It doesn't matter whether you're good, evil, or in between, the Darkspawn will still kill you. That's actually something I like about Dragon Age Origins in general, in two respects. One, it allows us to play an extremely evil character and yet still try to save the country. Because the Darkspawn don't care whether we're good, bad, or in between. They'll still eat us. Well, worse, since we're female. And two, it also helps to flesh out several other characters, but we'll talk more about that later. Thank you for returning them.
Such manners. Always in the last place you look. Like stockings. Oh, do not mind me. You have what you came for.
Time for you to go, then.
Do not be ridiculous, girl. These are your guests.
Oh, very well. I will show you out of the woods. Follow me.
Yeah, Darkspawn are a pretty good example of the Godzilla threshold. Which is ironic, because we don't actually use that. Not literally. Hang on 1 second. I need to jot down some thoughts really quick. I'll tell you one thing this game is going to be buried in positives for. Can you guess? If you've heard me talk about this game, you know what it is. Because it's something I bang on about constantly that this game does properly. Yep, exactly. Voice acting. Hey, Anyways, sorry about that. I was jotting down notes anyways. How can you hate Logain? He's Cain! That's a good question. Did we cure the dog? Let's go find out.
The Mabari's stable for now, but not improving. Unless I get that herb I told you about, there's not much hope.
Here it is.
Let me see. Yeah, that's exactly it. Wonderful. Give me a moment and I'll make this into an ointment. He looks better already. I'm sure he'd thank you himself if he could.
How long till there's an improvement?
A day, maybe 2. There's enough ointment for him to make a full recovery. Why not come back after the battle? Perhaps we can see about imprinting him on you.
I don't know if I like dogs, but... Are you sure? I mean...
Maybe. It's likely he understands you're responsible for curing him. Mabari are at least as smart as your average tax collector. Come back after the battle and just... well, take another look.
Okay. I'll take that. No reason. Yeah, there's no need to insult the dog.
So you returned from the wilds. Have you been successful?
Yeah.
Good. I've had the Circle mages preparing. With the blood you've retrieved, we can begin the joining immediately.
Because again, there's magic involved. Blood magic, which, you know. Anyways, 1 second. I never finished jotting down my thoughts because I got distracted by stuff. Nope, I already wrote them down. Okay. We might be able to have to tell you about Morrigan and her mother.
There was a woman at the tower, and her mother had the scrolls. They were both very... odd.
Were they wilder folk?
I don't think so. They might be apostates. Mages hiding from the Chantry.
I know you were once a Templar, Alistair, but Chantry business is not ours. We have the scrolls. Let us focus on the joining.
Oh yeah, I was thinking about the voice acting. Funny thing to think about. You probably don't remember this, but I had to argue for giving a separate positive to Claudia Black in addition to a positive for Morrigan back in the day. Do you remember that? Just kind of an indicator of how different the review system was then compared to now. Are you going to tell us what this ritual is about?
I will not lie. We Grey Wardens pay a heavy price to become what we are. Fate may decree that you pay your price now, rather than later.
Why is it so secret?
If only such secrecy were unnecessary, and all understood the necessity of such sacrifice. Sadly, that will never be so.
Let's go then. I'm anxious to see this joining now.
I agree. Let's have it done.
Then let us begin. Alistair, take them to the old temple.
So, here begins one of the more controversial scenes that we've argued about for literal years.
Joining, the less I like it.
Are you blubbering again?
Why all these damn tests? Have I not earned my place?
Maybe it's tradition. Maybe they're just trying to annoy you.
Let's go ahead and get this out of the way. We don't know what the joining actually does. We don't know what determines who lives and who dies. We may never, at the state we're at right now. A lot of people disagree on the idea or the concepts in it. It's relevant, though. This kind of world building is relevant because it determines how we could then determine who would live and who would die. Is it a willpower check? Is it something that ties into the specifics of their soul? Is their soul even involved in this? Does it have to do with how magically inclined they are? There's all sorts of other crap here. The most common argument I hear is actually a really, really simple one. It's this. Nothing more and nothing less. Yeah, exactly, blind, simple, stupid, doodah, clueless luck, and nothing more. I admit, of all the possible options, that's the one that I think is most likely. Not the one I like the most, the one that's most likely. Yeah, no kidding, Tidbit Retro. Of course, they need to do a proper remaster of the game first, but that's not there nor there. So, who knows? Who knows? But I bring all that up because it kind of determines an argument of who would live and who died. Maybe Jory would have survived if he actually drank the cup. Spoilers, he doesn't. He doesn't even try. So we have no idea. We know why we survive. It's because we're the PC, and that's how the game works. But it has also been argued that one of the things they could have done here, if they wanted to, was have all of the origins be present at this moment, and only one of us survives. Who knows? Either way.
I only know that my wife is in Highover with a child on the way. If they had warned me, it just doesn't seem fair.
Would you have come if they'd warned you? Maybe that's why they don't. The Wardens do what they must, right?
Including sacrificing us?
I'd sacrifice a lot more if I knew it would end the Blight.
And that's the difference between Jory and a Davith in a nutshell. Enjoy it because it's some of the last characterization we get for both of them. Davith is the kind of person who, despite everything, will drink that cup without hesitation, knowing that it might kill him. Jory is the person who will hesitate non-stop and constantly argue not to drink the cup, despite knowing what's at stake. Now, in the interest of fairness, we are, I don't want to use the word programmed, but fiction, damn it, Evo, fiction likes to pretend that everyone needs to be heroic, which is something I don't agree with. I tend to praise it when fiction remembers that normal people can be normal, and there's no shame in that. There's nothing wrong with that. There's no issues with someone who doesn't want to immediately and selflessly lay down their life for the cause, because media likes to portray that as the norm. So, it's kind of understandable where Jory's coming from here. He may be arguably in the wrong because of the very nature of the setting and the threat we're facing, something Duncan understands very well. But put yourself in his shoes for a second. He didn't really know what he was signing up for. He's signing up for, in his mind, a knight of elite, an elite order of knights. He wants to bring glory to his name and to his people and to fight the good fight and to save and blah, blah, blah. He's got a wife who has a child on the way, and he wants to make their lives better. That's very understandable from a very down-to-earth perspective. And now you're being told, hey, you got to drink this thing and it might kill you. And then, spoilers, I'm talking about this now so we can get this all out so we can just watch the scene uninterrupted. So spoilers, he's going to drink the cup, and he's going to watch someone drink from that cup and die. Of course he's going to hesitate. Of course he's going to back off. And this is one of those things that I think is actually very well written, if it is so horrifically unnecessary, really. Or not unnecessary, it's the wrong word. It shouldn't be, even though it is. Because the problem here is the joining is a secret because they are afraid they wouldn't get recruits otherwise. Which, I mean, if nothing else, they're certainly going to be limiting their options with regards to new recruits if they tell everyone, hey, you might die when you join. Also, you definitely will die when you join. Because you notice, they don't even mention the second half of the bargain here at all. In fact, they don't even mention the third complication here at all, too, which we'll talk about much later when it finally comes up. Yeah, exactly, Meadfist. I feel like there's room for more nuance here. I feel like someone like Jory should be told what's happening. Someone like Davith, I could understand why you wouldn't. I'm not a huge fan of it, but I can at least understand it. And then let's look at our origins, right? The city elf, we were pulled into this because it was this or imprisonment/death. Same thing with dwarf commoner, speaking of which. When we were the dwarf noble, we were already going to go fight Darkspawn to our death, so it almost doesn't matter if they tell us. But then what about human noble, who we were bartered away as part of a bargain in order to buy our lives? And, of course, mage, which we were certainly in a lot of trouble, variable depending on how we choose to go through that quest, but at the same time, and you can see how it shouldn't really just be a binary, on or off switch. Now, having said that, I don't know 040. I am not aware of that. I think we talk about that later, but don't quote me on that. How would I score the game if my character had a chance of death here? Depends on how it's seeded. RNG can be done several ways in a game, and if it's seeded RNG, which would mean that we are guaranteed to die no matter how many times we reload, that would suck. That would turbo suck. Because what that would mean, practically speaking, is go reroll. And then go through all the Origin, all of Ostagar, and then get back here, then roll your dice. That was decided when you made your character. That would be omega negative territory. If it was a flavor thing that you could do and then reload and then see the other way, I would only accept that if there was some kind of thing that actually mentioned, or I don't know. There would have to be some kind of mechanism to make the player know that they didn't do anything wrong. Either way, I would honestly probably be leaned against that. I get why they do it. I get why Vigilant donates huge amounts of money. Actually, I don't get that at all. But non-standard game overs can be fun. This feels like a weird one, because usually non-standard game overs are not only... have fun, Vigilant. Are not only telegraphed, but it's usually player choice. So the only way I could see this actually work is if when we drink, a dialogue option pops up. Willpower, resist the calling, or submit to the Darkspawn, or something like that, right? In other words, if it gives you the button push to say, I give in, and choose your own non-standard game over, and maybe give us like a fun little cutscene where we're like, rah, ha, 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 or something, that would be neat. I would be okay with that. But you need to have that be in the player's option in some way, rather than just doing it. Because if you're just doing it without player input, then you're just being a dick. Thank you, Vigilant, very, very, very much. Oh, sorry, I thought... Okay, never mind. I thought you... I misread it. I only glanced at it, well, because I was in the middle of talking. I apologize. Yeah, they could also do that. They could make it like a resist the urge. You're dead. The joining QTE. I mean, that could also suck, if we're being honest, because a lot of QTEs are break your fingers or break your controller variety. But, we can make that work. Old World Blues. All Out London. Alpha. I guess that's all I have to say about this. Obviously, Duncan's culpability in this is debatable. I myself have given my opinions on this several times. All I will say is that the Duncan we have seen across these Origins is very, very cold. He is focused. I'm not saying he's evil. That's derogatory. I think Duncan is someone who kind of doesn't care right now, because he's really focused on dealing with this blight now. And that's his goal, and that's his job. Yeah, he has been universally ruthless and pragmatic and focused on the job at hand every single time he's been on screen. Yeah, he knows exactly what's at stake. I've said this before, and I'll say it again. He's what a renegade player should look like. So, Duncan deciding to go against Jory, frankly, makes perfect sense, given what we know of Duncan. Whether I think that's acceptable or morally right or whatever doesn't really matter, because it's fully in character for the man we've seen. I mean, you're right, 040. Let's also remember something we don't know now, but we'll find out later. Duncan is on his last legs. He's already started to hear the call. So... he's kind of in a hurry on two. He's got 2 ticking clocks going here. Any thoughts on the approval system? Let's come back to that later, Dr. Winter. Don't let me forget. Moment. I mean, he literally does not have time for bullcrap.
Don't we? The Grey Wardens have saved the world from Darkspawn before. I'd say they know better than anyone what it takes. You saw those Darkspawns tonight. Wouldn't you die to protect your pretty wife from them?
I...
Maybe you'll die, Maybe we'll all die. If nobody stops the Darkspawn, we'll die for sure.
I've just never faced a foe I could not engage with my blade.
At last, we come to the joining.
It's called the flu.
The Grey Wardens were founded during the First Blight, when humanity stood on the verge of annihilation. So it was that the first Grey Wardens drank of Darkspawn blood and mastered their taint.
We're going to drink the blood of those creatures.
As the first Grey Wardens did before us, as we did before you. This is the source of our power and our victory.
Those who survive the joining become immune to the taint. We can sense it in the Darkspawn and use it to slay the archdemon.
Desperation, Emperor Valerian. That's not me making that up, that's truth. They were really desperate to do anything they could to deal with the original Darkspawn invasion. And they were just messing around with it. So let's talk about something. The game doesn't emphasize this as well as it should. This is our biggest advantage by a huge margin. We are immune to Darkspawn taint. That's it. That's the advantage right there. Being able to sense them, that's neat. You know, being able to detect them or follow them or hear the wishes of the archdemon, that's helpful. But no, it's the taint thing that's important. Because remember, all Darkspawn are... well, they're not quite full xenomorphs, but they are the kind of thing where it's really easy to become sick to the point of uncurable death by virtue of simply getting some Darkspawn blood on you. Yeah, exactly. The game it undersells how absolutely dangerous the taint really is. So, we're immune to that, which means we can engage Darkspawn with impunity. Everyone else, that's a much more dangerous task for literally everybody else to do. They did already mention this, if you're paying attention. They talked about the Mabari, who will bite. And when you bite something... and yeah, we will meet people affected by the taint. Quite a bit, actually. And as I already hinted at before, the taint actually has an effect on the material plane in general. So... yeah, no, this is a big deal. Yeah, they're like a walking Chernobyl. I've heard several people compare the taint to radiation. I don't know if that's an apt comparison. I'm not that scientifically devoted or learned. But it's an interesting idea just in the vague, abstract sense of the word. It's just something you can't really see and can't really interact with that just kind of makes you slowly die from the inside as your cells destruct. You know? But disease is more accurate. Of course, the problem is, and Eva already pointed this out, it's true, Meat Fist. It's true. The real problem here, and this is something I run into as a lore runner, is I was talking to a friend of mine just last night about this. It's really frustrating for me when creators constantly change their mind on how the rules of their setting works. Because it's hard for me to properly explain how a setting works, to lore run a work, if I have to constantly be like, well, you see, this is what the taint is, and it's also, and if I have to keep hitting this freaking clicker, points if you get it, it's frustrating to me. God damn it. Codify your lore. Look at my taint. Don't actually do that. That's terrible. But you get my point. Dragon Age, all three Dragon Age games have different rules about how the nitty-gritty specifics work. And that matters because it changes how things work large scale. It changes what impacts what, where, and how. So, Darkspawn, Taint, Dwarves, the Chantry, the very nature of how mages operate, demons and spirits as a concept, several of these things have been adjusted over the years as different writers move into the space and change things and blah, blah, blah. And it's really frustrating because a lot of what I'm talking about is functionally wrong. Not because I'm wrong, although that happens too, but because of the fact that they changed their minds later. This is something I brought up during the rumination, the proper remake rumination of Dragon Age Origins. That so many things have to be, that can be said and debated within this game in a bubble. Because they have to be in a bubble, because they retconned it later. I'm getting off topic. Point being, the taint sucks, is what I'm trying to say. But I also want to give a plus to story. I know, that's shocking that I would ever give a plus to story to this game. It's for the plot hook. It's the same kind of plus that Mass Effect 1 got, that KOTOR 1 will get if we ever re-review it under the current system. It's the hook. Why are we the PC? Well, we're the PC because we happen to be a Grey Warden. We have that advantage nobody else has. And, well, there's a whole lot of other stuff that goes into this too, which we haven't even covered yet, which will explain why why the army isn't dealing with this issue when they arguably should be. Good games. We actually talked about this in Baldur's Gate 3 as well. Good games will go out of their way to come up with a reason why nobody else is dealing with the problem and why you're dealing with the problem. And those are two separate things that the narration, the writers have to solve. Because if they don't solve both of these, the first question is, why are we here? And the second question is, why is no one else dealing with this? But the three games I just mentioned, Mass Effect 1, KOTOR, and Dragon Age Origins, actually have a pretty good initial hook, initial reason for that, and a purpose behind why we are and they aren't. So anyways, let's get on with it.
We speak only a few words prior to the joining, but these words have been said since the first. Alistair, if you would.
Join us, brothers and sisters. Join us in the shadows where we stand vigilant. Join us as we carry the duty that cannot be forsworn. And should you perish, know that your sacrifice will not be forgotten.
Jory.
And that one day, we shall join you.
Jory.
Davith, step forward.
Now, having said all of that, it is a little bit ridiculous. They should all drink at the same time. There's almost no reason to do this individually. In fact, it leads to the exact problem we're about to see.
Maker's breath.
Sorry, Davith. I still like you as a character.
I am sorry, Davith. Step forward, Jory.
But I have a wife.
Jory does draw his weapon first.
Had I known.
No turning back.
No! You ask too much. There is no glory in this.
Jory also attacks first.
I am sorry. But the joining is not yet complete.
Texture bugs. Texture bugs.
Called upon to submit yourself to the taint for the greater good.
For the greater good!
From this moment forth, you are a Grey Warden.
Hello, beautiful.
It is finished. Welcome.
2 more deaths. In my joining, only one of us died, but it was horrible. I'm glad at least one of you made it through.
How do you feel?
I can't believe you killed Sir Jory.
Jory was warned that there was no turning back, as were you all. When he went for his blade, however, he left me no choice. It brought me no pleasure to end his life. The Blight demands sacrifices from us all. Thankfully, you stand here as proof they are not all made in vain.
Did you have dreams? I had terrible dreams after my joining.
Such dreams come when you begin to sense the Darkspawn, as we all do. That and many other things can be explained in the months to come.
Before I forget, there is one last part to your joining. We take some of that blood and put it in a pendant. Something to remind us of those who didn't make it this far.
Take some time. When you're ready, I'd like you to accompany me to a meeting with the king.
What kind of meeting?
The king is discussing strategy for the upcoming battle. I am not sure why he has requested your presence. The meeting is to the west, down the stairs. Please attend as soon as you're able.
Hang on. Never vigilant. Never vigilant. I refuse. You can't make me. There it is. I don't think they would have let Jory go if he, decided to. I don't think that was ever in the cards. So. How much experience? That's a good question. We did just kill a man after. No, absolutely not, Dr. Winter. Good question, though. Very good question. Sorry for the delay. Oh, yes. Moment. The joining. I like that, too. It's a nice little touch. Completely manually set, but it gives the impression of time, which is great because it leads up into the night. And naturally, it's the darkest hour of the story, which we'll talk about more in a minute. Noise warning, unless I could skip it quickly enough. Nope, I skipped it. Yay! Skill. 360, no scope. All right. I can't get the launcher working, Yura. It was one of the issues I had getting the game working at all, so I don't have the launcher. I had to manually set some graphic settings as a result of that. We're fine, Pika, we're fine. Long and healthy life ahead of us. Yeah, Duncan just really wanted that extra level. That's what it was. I mean... is my answer to that. I'm good. Any questions? Hang on, where's my corpse? I want to loot Jory. Ah, well. Duncan was like, I know you haven't been leveling. Speaking of which, we want 16 cunning, I believe. I guess I can't tell right now. And lots of magic. I should have looted him while he was still alive. I should have killed him while I had the chance. Oh, sorry, wrong movie. Yeah, this game can be mean, especially on the harder difficulties. I have done the one Nightmare playthrough, and that was fun. A favorite looting system? Yes, I do. It's when you kill a mob and instantly the loot... Hang on. There, that's more satisfying. So instantly, the loot is just teleported into your inventory. That's my favorite looting system. Yeah, I was gonna say Lotro does that. Guild Wars 2, I think, does that. STO does not do that. Something else does that.
Loghain, my decision is final. I will stand by the Grey Wardens in this assault.
Hey, look, it's Uldred.
You risk too much, Kalen. The Darkspawn horde is too dangerous for you to be playing hero on the front lines.
Hi, Kane.
If that's the case, perhaps we should wait for the Orlesian forces to join us after all.
I must repeat my protest to your fool notion that we need the Orlesians to defend ourselves.
It is not a fool notion. Our arguments with the Orlesians are a thing of the past, and you will remember who is king.
How fortunate Marek did not live to see his son ready to hand Ferelden over to those who enslaved us for a century.
Then our current forces will have to suffice, won't they? Duncan, are your men ready for battle?
They are, Your Majesty.
And this is the recruit I met earlier on the road? I understand congratulations are in order.
By the way, I hate to point this out, but did you notice that Loghain is already being irrational? It has been argued that Loghain is suffering from a rather severe, mental health issues, for lack of a better way to put it. Whether it's PTSD, or actual paranoia, or whatever else, it doesn't matter. And that makes sense, considering what he went through. He gives us some stories about what the Orlesian occupation was like. It's not pretty. And he had to go through some stuff to succeed in pulling that win there. But I bring that up because his initial argument, and I'm going to fail at describing this properly, is we need to be doing this a certain way. Kalen's immediate response is, then we should wait for reinforcements. Loghain's response is, absolutely not. I'd rather die, to which Kalen's response is, then our current forces are sufficient, yes, and Loghain has no rejoinder to that. Loghain has been trapped by his own argument, because he just can't with the Orlesians. He can't cross that line. His brain is too damaged to accept that. And that's not really a statement of blame, just a commentary. Thank you, Your Majesty.
Every Grey Warden is needed now. You should be honored to join their ranks.
Your fascination with glory and legends will be your undoing, Kalen. We must attend to reality.
Fine. Speak your strategy. The Grey Wardens and I draw the Darkspawn into charging our lines, and then?
You will alert the tower to light the beacon, signaling my men to charge from cover.
To flank the Darkspawn, I remember. This is the Tower of Ishal in the ruins, yes? Well, who shall light this beacon?
I have a few men stationed there. It's not a dangerous task, but it is vital.
Then we should send our best. Send Alistair and the new Grey Warden to make sure it's done.
What I love most about this scene, there's actually a lot of politics going on in this scene that isn't really on the surface, and I know several players never even picked up on what's going on here. There's some back and forth between these two, but also the other two people who are present at this particular conversation. So you notice that Kalen flat out calls the new recruit, us, and Alistair, the best. That's obviously a lie. He's more interested in trying to make sure that Alistair is someplace kept safe. Almost assuredly as some kind of a backup option, because Alistair is... well, he's the backup option. And you might think that's unkind, and it kind of is, but there are several precedences for this in real-life history, where it's more important to keep someone with a valid blood claim on the throne than to allow us to go ahead and fall into some kind of civil war. Because civil wars don't help anything in this situation. Funnily enough. Like, why is the revered mother here? Because she's the one with the political prowess to be here. Put simply. Yeah, nobody likes the succession crisis. Even the people who have something to gain from that tend to not like the actual crisis itself. Exactly, Leonard. You have the heir, you have the spare. That's the rule. You mean this means I will not be fighting in the battle proper?
We need the beacon. Without it, Loghain's men won't know when to charge.
You see? Glory for everyone.
You rely on these Grey Wardens too much. Is that truly wise?
Enough of your conspiracy theories, Loghain. Grey Wardens battle the Blight no matter where they're from.
Your Majesty, you should consider the possibility of the archdemon appearing.
There have been no signs of any dragons in the wilds.
Isn't that what your men are here for, Duncan?
Yes, Your Majesty.
Your Majesty, the tower and its beacon are unnecessary. The
We
circle
will
of
not
Magi...
trust any lives to your spells, mage. Save them for the Darkspawn.
Enough. This plan will suffice. The Grey Wardens will light the beacon.
Thank you, Logain. I cannot wait for that glorious moment. The Grey Wardens battle beside the King of Ferelden to stem the tide of evil.
Yes, Galen. A glorious moment for us all.
So, Uldred.
You heard the plan. You and Alistair will go to the Tower of Visceral and ensure the beacon is lit.
What? I won't be in the battle.
This is by the King's personal request, Alistair. If the beacon is not lit, Loghain's men won't know when to charge.
So he needs 2 Grey Wardens standing up there holding the torch, just in case, right?
So think about this for a second. I've talked about this before, but I always feel it bears repeating. We know, as of this point in time, Uldred is already in cahoots, right? We know the timeline of that. And we also know that Uldred is Uldred. So what would have happened if the Uldred had been allowed to be the one to light the beacon? If Caitlin hadn't been playing at politics, and the Chantry hadn't also been playing at politics? Uldred would have been like, oh no, the beacon didn't light. Oh, there was the Darkspawn. They interfered with our magic. We were overwhelmed. We couldn't light the beacon. A horrible, terrible accident. A true tragedy. It's okay. Loghain will rise up from the ashes and be able to help us survive and thrive and push back against this and unite us. There would have been problems. There would have been difficulties, but Loghain just gets away with it and the whole thing would have been smoothed over. But that's not what happened. Alistair goes there. We go there. Word gets out, and now we have civil war. And I love how such a tiny domino starts off the events of, functionally, the entire game. I'm ready to go.
Yes, so am I.
You'll need to cross the gorge and head through the gate and up to the tower entrance. From the top, you'll overlook the entire valley.
When do we light it?
We will signal you when the time is right. Alistair will know what to look for.
How much time do we have?
The battle is about to begin. Once I leave, move quickly. You'll have less than an hour.
Can we join the battle after?
Stay with the Terran's men and guard the tower. If you are needed, we will send word.
What if the Archdemon appears?
We soil our drawers, that's what.
If it does, leave it to us. I want no heroics from either of you.
Also, probably worth noting that Duncan was probably planning to sacrifice himself to the Archdemon here. Almost assuredly.
Then I must join the others. From here, you two are on your own. Remember, you are both Grey Wardens. I expect you to be worthy of that title.
Duncan, may the Maker watch over you.
Assuming they exist.
Watch over us all.
So, I know this is going to shock you, Meatfist, but for the second time today, I agree with you. I love this game, unabashedly, and it has a lot of nuance and detail and excellent storytelling in it, on a lot of layers. There's some stuff that is very, very well thought out in this. But the upcoming scene is not one of those things. I think it's actually the biggest plot hole in the entire game, my opinion, and it's bothered me for years. The character we see before and after, even ignoring the books and the future stuff and all that, if we just focus on Dragon Age Origins, Loghain is not someone who would make the call he makes here. It's a little bit silly, and it's arguably out of character. We'll debate this, but put a question mark by that for now. It has always bothered me ever since the first time I played this. The only way it makes sense is if you assume he is evil. Which he is not. He's pragmatic, ruthless, and probably legally insane. But, mwahaha. You'll see what I mean. I'm sorry, I'm getting ahead of myself. We got a little mini dungeon to do really quick. Let me fix my bar here. What's that? That needs to go over here. This needs to go over here, and this needs to go. Actually, it's just stayed right there. Whoop, 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 whoop. Pay attention, Lord. Pay attention. We haven't crashed yet, Yura. Knock on wood. Okay, save. It's okay, it only takes half a second to save. I love it. Such a relief after Baldur's Gate 3. No offense to Baldur's Gate 3. And that is a good question. All we know is what we see in the cutscene we're watching right now. And even pre-rendered, the engine can only handle so many units at a time, so we only see about a company's worth.
The plan will work, Your Majesty.
Of course it will. The Blight ends here.
Oh, there's the site. Yeah, an army of skirmishers. And nothing else. Hell, these aren't even proper skirmishers now I think about it. Brief preview of an ogre there. Gotta admit, this would suck to see barreling down towards you.
Archers!
Okay, good initial volley. Keep it going. No, no. You've already made a mistake in your tactics. Hounds should be used as harassers in this situation. Stragglers.
For Ferelden!
And then they charge out from a defensive position. I don't know if this is the writers being stupid or Kalen being stupid. Take your pick. They have an incredibly good defensive position here.
Let's cross the bridge and get to the tower.
Like, I'm sorry. The thought of besieging a spot like this is terrifying. This is an extraordinarily well-defended spot. Don't mind me. You okay? They're fine. Look, they're fine. They're fine. I can't even zoom in properly. There's a couple of them down there. It's over, Darkspawn. I can't reach you from up here, but it's over. I'm in need of help.
Die!
You should never have come.
Help me. They're everywhere. You're Grey Wardens, aren't you? The tower, it's been taken.
What are you talking about, man? Taken how?
The Darkspawn came up through the lower chambers. They're everywhere. Most of our men are dead.
Then we have to get to the beacon and light it ourselves.
To be clear, I agree with you completely, Meatfist. I just think it might actually be at least partially Kalen's fault for being, you know, a glory hound idiot who has no idea what he's dealing with.
As you wish.
Thank God we've got Random Man and other Random Man to fill out the party here. Thanks for that game.
Let's get started.
So, someone earlier asked if the Grey Wardens were in part inspired by the, I forget what they're called, from Game of Thrones. Last I checked, the writers have been really open about admitting their inspirations for this game, including Game of Thrones. So, my answer would be, yeah, probably. I will always give the writers of this game credit for being quite open and honest about how much stuff they were inspired by while writing this, as opposed to what some writers like to do and be like, no, I came up with the idea. It's really similar to this other thing. No, it was me. I was dreaming one night, and it came to me in a vision. And if you think I'm being facetious, then you haven't seen as many interviews from as many writers as I have. Some writers can be complete dicks about that. I wasn't going to name any names, Ronan. It's okay, we're playing on easy, so we won't have any friendly fire. I agree with you on that, Lord Aramon. I mean, Blizzard of Borg is not an insult. I've said that so many times. I like Blizzard of Borg. I think they were really good at that and should do more of it. There's nothing wrong with taking inspiration from something else, as long as you do something with it. That's the important part. Make sure that you take it and do your own spin on it. Use it properly. Use it appropriately. And, to bring it back to the immediacy, I do think the Grey Wardens are well designed for the setting that they're in. I do think that they are a good fit. They help make Dragon Age Dragon Age. They are the Jedi of Dragon Age. Yeah, exactly. There isn't a difference between inspiration and copying. A huge difference. My favorite thing to ruin the Grey Wardens is actually Dragon Age Awakening, where they're like, alright, we're going to just make everyone a Grey Warden. Optionally and for no real purpose. You can just do it. You're just, here, Meat Fist, drink this. Okay, you're a Grey Warden. Alright, Jesse Ward, drink this. You're a Grey Warden. Okay, WoW TNT, drink this. You're a Grey Warden. Aren't we an ancient order, and isn't that like some huge sacrifice? No, you're a Grey Warden. You're a Grey Warden. But, okay. Here you go, Eternus. Drink this, and you're a Grey Warden. It's just... I should be paying attention. Some of these fights can actually be mean. This is officially the end of the intro. Or rather, the second intro. Of 3, there's still one more intro.
Time for some fun! Fear is your weakness. A little frantic? I can see why!
Yeah, I actually remember this fight quite distinctly on Nightmare. It was my second wake-up call to Nightmare. Now, Lord Harriman, you know the answer to this, I'm sure. But can any of you guess the first wake-up call fight I had on my Nightmare playthrough?
I'm going to take a nap. I hope that's okay.
I was mage. The only Nightmare playthrough I've done was as a mage. Correct, Lord Harriman. That first emissary fight, just shocked me by how hard it was. Really, Inamisho? Interesting. Alright. I will withdraw my complaint. And give it a negative! When we get there. We're not there yet, obviously. Raise your cunning, because we have to get rid of our cunning tax. We'll debate it when we get there. I just remember it badly. That's all. So, obviously, Alistair is going to be our tank. I know it's boring. I don't care. He's a good tank. So, he's our tank. Congratulations. You're a tank. I can't remember the button. There it is. Okay, he's in shield cover, shield. Okay, perfect. Cool. Sword and board is actually pretty good. I agree with that. I was surprised because, honestly, in the overwhelming majority of games, sword and board is not good. In fact, I can only think of 2 where it is. And this is one of them.
Show me what
I suppose I should mention that I think that's valid in some of the Dragon Ages, so don't quote me on that. Dragon Ages? Dark Souls. The Dark Souls games. Hang on, let's aim this right. You'll notice I kind of did that this time, too, Lord Harriman. Pulled back and let them come across the bridge to me. I don't remember Sword and Board in Dragon's Dogma, so I can't speak to that. I admit I'm biased because I enjoy Sword and Board. Enjoyed, past tense, in real life. Because, like, I don't know. You ever actually held a shield? Those things are really impressive. Like, even if you just have a basic round shield, you know how hard it is to hit around or through a shield? Clang. It's all good, Lord Harriman. I was just pointing out that I did that specifically because I remember that fight as the first hurdle. Yeah, even a buckler is really useful in real life, so I'm with it. By the way, the other game is WoW, if you're wondering. Sword and Board is one of my favorite setups for 2 separate classes in that game. I have unfortunately never gotten to use a spear in real life, to my great dismay. I've used a bow, B-O, a staff, but not a spear.
As you wish.
Would I rather use a big or a small shield? What's my other weapon? Because I have actually wielded up to a tower shield, and tower shields, those are a thing. those are a thing.
What are these Darkspawn doing ahead of the rest of the Horde? There wasn't supposed to be any resistance here.
Weren't you complaining you wouldn't get to fight?
Hey, you're right. I guess there is a silver lining here if you think about it. At any rate, we need to hurry. We need to get up to the top of the tower and light the signal fire in time. Taron Loghain will be waiting for the signal.
Oh, thank God, Jesse Ward. Speaking as a majority shareholder in air conditioning is awesome. I feel you. But yeah, so tower shields, right? My sister makes fun of me for this, which is of course valid. I will do that. I am so left arm atrophied that I cannot wield a tower shield on my offhand, my left hand. The only way I've ever been able to wield a tower shield is on my right arm, my strong arm. It was fun, but it was kind of all I was doing was Kong. Kong. Great sweeper, though.
Let's make this quick, shall we?
Having said that, if I have to pick, I would go with a typical old kite shield. A lot you can do with that. Really good as a weapon, both from the blunt edge and the pointy edge. And, of course, it's a nice in-between of too heavy and not heavy enough.
Let's get started.
And stay now.
I have, to my great dismay, never dual-wielded shields in real life. I know what you're thinking. Just go... Well, I don't actually... I only own one shield, and it's, I forget what it's called, has since broken off. The thing that you actually grip to on the other side of the shield. So I can't actually wield it. It's just decorative at this point. And it's not like I really have a lot of money in my life to be burning on something that I would never really get a chance to use. So... waste of money, waste of time. Favorite coat of arms? Yeah. This one right here.
Let's grab some glory.
Listen, Mike Tomato. No, it's a very valid thing to emphasize, Dr. Winter. So, strapped to is something I have experienced, but the shield that I'm thinking of, the kite shield specifically, had a handle. You grip right here. It's like, here's the shield, handle's right here, and so you grip it, and it rests across here. Or more like across here, but you get my point. Also, they've had a lot of chance to, you know, kill and mutilate people here. Which, it was a solid handle, which really gets across an implication
Ready to charge as soon as we light the signal.
of how long these have been here. In fact, there's 2 points that emphasize that the Darkspawn have been here longer than anybody realized. First, and most importantly, they already killed all the people in the tower. They've butchered them, and they've hung out their... They've had time to impale their heads on pikes, for God's sakes. Point number 2, they've been here long enough that the organic, fleshy, gross stuff has already started to bleed out into the material plane. So that's cool.
How about you?
Yep, nope, we're backing off. Now we're gonna go over here.
You had it coming.
Oh yeah, the decor was definitely here before.
Let's make this quick, shall we?
Oh no, you don't!
Come, you can do better than that. Excellent!
Yes!
The Darkspawn are gross. Negative to gameplay. Alright, moving on.
This should be easy enough.
This isn't even remotely as gross as we'll get. In fact, I've heard different people argue about what the grossest thing is in this game. Because we've got competition on the matter. Actually, no, you.
Let's make this quick! It's a gaffer!
Never, Mike Romano. Obviously, the Broodmother is kind of a shoe-in for grossest, but if I'm being completely honest, the Mage Tower bothers me more. Probably because the Broodmother is kind of a one-and-done, and the Mage Tower is a nice, long dungeon. So by sheer virtue of quantity, you know. We'll talk about viscerality more when we have something to actually talk about. We're level 3 and we're dead, also. Just keep doing our thing for a second here. But we'll talk about it more later. Having said that, I do think this game does something that a lot of RPGs fail at, especially CRPGs. I think that the non-magical abilities are also visceral. To use a direct example, Baldur's Gate 3, but also the main example I was thinking of was Tyranny. I know it's a weird example to jump onto, but Tyranny's magic spells were awesome. And then there was everything else. That's what I thought.
Right. Let's get started. On it.
I mean, I'm not going to argue Imperial Starter Shirt because it's a very, very valid point. Either way, the game is getting the gross negative. Just one.
Okay, done with you now.
We'll actually have to give a PG-13 warning a couple of times in this game. So, this is, unironically, one of the hardest fights in the game on Nightmare. I would say third hardest. First, that's very subjective, obviously, and just from my own experience, but this is mean. Yeah, this turned into a bit of a wake-up call fight on Nightmare, which we are, of course, not playing because I'm not insane. Good night, 040. We're going to be cutting off right after this.
You had it coming. Let's make this quick, shall we? A little frantic. I can see why.
Yeah, speaking of which, we do this as well. I should just do this, speaking of that. Yeah, this is when I discovered kiting.
Less fighting, more dying.
Especially since it's really easy to not have a healer in this fight. In later fights, which are arguably harder, you generally have, you know, a healer. There's only one way to have a healer here, and that's if you are the healer, as a mage.
Beacon is over here. We've surely missed the signal. Let's light it quickly before it's too late.
Yeah, sorry, give me a moment, because we're done with the second intro, and we're going to be cutting off in just a moment here. Although we could cut off right here. We could cut off right now.